Hello, good evening, and welcome, albeit a little late, to the CantinaMX podcast. Glad to have you with us. We are broadcasting live as we normally do Thursday nights on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Glad that you're joining us here live. And of course, if you're downloaded or have downloaded this podcast from either iTunes or Google Play, we appreciate that as well. Appreciate all of the folks that have reached out to us and let us know their thoughts on the CantinaMX podcast. We welcome you to continue to do that. It's been a really fun month with the World Cup, and sadly for all of us, it's coming to an end on Sunday with a final between France and Croatia. If you had France and Croatia in your pool on your bracket, congratulations. I don't think you're probably one of the very few million in the world that had that, but both teams deserve to be in the final. They both played well enough to make it happen, and that's the final we're going to get. It's 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific, and 11 a.m. on the East Coast. So my name is John Jagoop. Glad to have you with us here on the CantinaMX podcast. We'll have a limited panel right now, but as the evening goes on, I'm sure that it'll swell as it usually does here on the CantinaMX podcast. Obviously, we're going to talk the World Cup final. We're going to talk FMF and what does the future hold? Does it include Juan Carlos Osorio? Is it going to be a 4-year proceso? Is it going to be an 8-year proceso? Who and what's going to happen? I'm going to ask each of our panelists. They're going to be FMF presidents for a day. What decisions do they make? Should be very interesting. Glad that you're with us. Let's get right to it. Let's introduce our panel. Our panel of one right now. It's Joel Aceves that joins us. Joel, how are you, sir?
Cuba John, doing pretty good.
Yeah, you having a good time there in Southern California?
Yes.
Apparently it's hot in Southern California right now.
It has been, John. But I've managed to keep cool, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, is air conditioning a thing in Southern California? Because I know in some parts of the country it's just not.
Yeah, well, luckily where I work, they have air conditioning, so.
What about in your humble abode?
No hay
aire acondicionado. Oof. I don't know how you. That is something that just could not happen living here in Texas. Although, for us, a high of 95 is like a mild summer day, which is what it was today. So it was very nice weather for us here in Austin. Joel, Francia, Croacia. Not the final that people expected. Was it a final that you were hoping to see based on who were in the semifinals, or were you hoping something different?
No, I'm old-fashioned, John. I was hoping for the England versus France.
I think you and Fox were hoping for the England versus.
Yeah, just way more talking points. You have in England a very traditional team, a team that had not been in a final has not been in a final since 1966. You had the fans singing the Cup's coming back home. England is the home of football. So, it was interesting to see. And also because it seems to be like a return for England, as one of the powerhouse teams.
Right. No, I mean, it would have been, as you say, and I'm, going to a British school when I was a kid. I am an England fan. I'm not. It is one of the teams that I follow a little closer than others, and I would have been, as for you, very happy to see an England-France game because frankly, England is the one team that has a psychological edge over France for whatever reason. They just seem to have it, and it's a clásico, England-France. I mean, it is as big a European rivalry as you can get. It would have been an outstanding final, but Croatia said, "You know what, guys? No offense, but we play soccer too." And Mario Mandzukic made an outstanding play on a loose header that frankly just happened to be going his way, and he was able to glam onto it and stick it into the back of the net. Goes and celebrates with a Salvadorian photographer who works for CantinaMX. And who got some outstanding pictures of the celebration, and it is Croatia and not England who will be meeting France in the final after France dispatched Belgium with what I would consider relative ease the day before. So it's Croatia and France, which with a rematch, Joel, of the 1998 semifinal. When
Semifinal.
when Croatia,
Wow.
when their World Cup debut, made it to the semifinals and were leading France. If you remember, they got the first goal in that game before Lilian Thuram scored his double, like with like 5 minutes, boom boom, and we're able to France was able to secure the win 2-1. So yeah, it's Croatia has a chance to join an extremely exclusive club, a club that no one would have been able to join had England beaten them, but they did not. And it's going to be France, Croatia.
And if I'm not mistaken, they're the third country, with a small population to reach the final. So you have Uruguay and Hungary.
And Czechoslovakia as well. Czechoslovakia made a couple.
Czechoslovakia reached a final.
They've made a several final. They made a final in '62 against Brazil, and they also made a final either in '34 or '38. I forget which one against
No,
Italy.
no,
So
but
they've been in the final as well.
oh yeah.
In fact, in '62, Mexico beat Czech. In fact, it was the first, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken, it was the first
first
win.
win for three.
But it didn't matter that Mexico had already been eliminated because they had lost to Brazil, and they had Spain tied. But I think Spain scored, and I want to say it was even like Di Stefano, who had been naturalized and was playing for Spain like at the very end of his career. I could be wrong. Scored a late winner and then ended up costing Mexico a chance to advance. So Czech had already advanced, and they Mexico ended up beating them, which was a great piece of information to have back in 2006 when the Czech Republic beat the U.S. 3-0. I remember telling friends, "Well, hey man, when Mexico plays Czechoslovakia in the World Cup, they take care of business." That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. And then when they don't believe you and you say, "Look it up," and they go, "Oh, okay, sorry about that." So yeah, it was a great it was great to have it. And Croatia, Joel, in Mexico has beaten Croatia twice in World Cups. It did it in '02 and did it again in 14. And so a lot of Mexican fans are like, why Croatia and not Mexico? What has Croatia done that Mexico did in order for them to get into
Consistency,
this
John.
position?
The
And
consistency of their top players. You
and
look at
they've gotten consistently better as well. I mean, if you see the progress that they've made from tournament to tournament,
yeah,
not just the World Cup, but also in the Eurocopa. I mean, since that '98, which was kind of a freak, not expected. But I mean, even in the last Eurocopa, they played real well, and I would dare say that at least in the group stage, that they were the best team in the group stage, Croatia.
yeah, yeah. You look at their top players like Modric and Rakitic, and they've stayed in very top teams the past 4 years. Uh,
Well,
you know,
it's not
with
just them. I mean, they have guys, they play for, they play for AC Milan, they play for Inter, they play for Bayern, they play
Juventus.
for Leverkusen. I mean, they're Croatians are playing on the top teams of the top leagues all over Europe. So I mean, it's
Yeah, and we look at the comparison, our players, for example, very few stayed in their clubs. So you have like Chicharo and what is this, like his third club since the last World Cup?
right. Fourth,
Fourth, I mean, and he arrived getting very little playing time. I mean, that's just not that doesn't look too good. He's our all-time leading scorer, one of the players we're counting on, and he's fighting for minutes at West
well,
Ham.
exactly. And West Ham, were within, didn't have their relegation issues solved until like 2 weeks before the season. You have guys
Yeah,
like Hector Herrera, who for whatever reason after the 2014 World Cup, he was already at Porto, did not move to another team. Was frankly very very surprising.
yeah, and
Now
he was expected. Yeah, he
right, and it just didn't happen for him. And he stayed up. Now they're saying he could go to Real Madrid, which I can kind of sort of see just because his former coach is there. But I mean, outside of him and Layun, who again, I mean, no one, as you said, no one that was already playing in Europe from 14 to 18 really progressed their career to where you would expect it to be by the time the 2018 World Cup
Yeah,
rolled around.
disappointed in Giovanni, for example, and not so much because he came to the Galaxy, and I understand why people say that was, he went fue retroceso,
Right.
but his drop in form was just abysmal, man. Because when he arrived, he was like every game he would score a goal and give an assist, and and then just the last year going into the World Cup, he just disappeared.
He did, and it makes you wonder if some of the choices were, I'm not saying that people, that players had to be taken, but were they more mediáticos or not? And I'm not going to go into the whole roster because I mean it's water under the bridge, but yeah. So he's one player. Jonathan was the one guy who you saw the improvement. Year over year. He was a fixture with Villarreal. They were playing at a level that was allowing him to compete in the Europa League, and he was a big part of that. He had a fantastic Confederations Cup, so you're thinking, this could be good. And then he goes and makes the same. And again, I don't fault these guys for making decisions. They don't owe me anything. They don't owe you. Well, I don't know how I know you since you live in LA. I don't know if you guys have the secret
No,
poker
no.
games or not. Okay, all right. They don't owe us anything. But if you know making a World Cup team and playing well in the World Cup was important to them, then the paths they took was not necessarily the best one. Now, I will say this, and this is where I do agree with you, is just because these guys are in MLS doesn't mean that their form is going to drop automatically. I think that a lot of that has to do with how they played, and Giovanni to me is a player that he is just he's burnt out. He is burnt. He is as close to being a cartucho quemado as there is, and that's fine. I mean that happens to players. I mean you want it to happen, after 32, not at 28, and
Yeah,
that's just the unfortunate thing.
we kind of see the opposite with Vela, who he seems to have gotten revitalized coming to the Los Angeles Football Club, where you see him enjoying himself again.
Right.
And so that, yeah, and I didn't think it affected him in the World Cup. He was one of the better players.
I think that the only thing that affected him was that I think that especially in the last couple of games, he just didn't have the same spring in his step as he had in the first two matches. So, which is natural. But again, to me, it's like if that's the case, then why did you bring Marco Fabian and Giovanni and all those other guys that could have replaced him easily and then not play him?
Not,
But I will say that he was one of the few bright spots. Now compare that again to Croatia, as you pointed out. They have guys that are playing and getting valuable minutes for Real Madrid, for Barcelona, for Inter, for AC Milan, for these traditionally super strong teams in Europe. Their coach had only been coaching them for 7 months. Their league is it might as well be the Liga Salvadoreña in all seriousness. I mean, there's one, there's Dinamo Zagreb, and then there's however many other teams, and that's it. You know, it's so well known that we know Dinamo Zagreb, and that's it for the Croatian.
yeah, like the same team that makes it to the
Yeah.
Champions League every year.
Right.
That's
But exactly. But this is a team that has been, as you pointed out, they've been consistent. They've been together. They've been together for, for the majority of them been playing together for a very long time. And I mean, they did what they had to do to get the results. And I mean, it wasn't like it was easy for them. I mean, they had to go into extra time 3 times. So they have played a complete game more than France has coming in, and that's going to be. However, they also go into this game with absolutely nothing to lose, and a team like Croatia to me is extremely dangerous when they're playing with house money, which is what they're going to be doing on Sunday.
Yeah, it will be interesting. It will be a very interesting final. Um, a ver qué pasa. Pretty much everyone has France as favorites, but you can't discount Croatia, man.
Yeah, I mean, how can you? I mean,
They've
they
shown
come
that.
back in every single one of their knockouts. They came back from being a goal down in every single one.
Yeah, and they also beat Argentina. That's some of the teams they left along the way.
They, I think you're being polite, Hoed, when you say they beat Argentina. They put a whooping on Argentina. They embarrassed
they,
Argentina.
they did. They laid the smack it down it.
That was they didn't open a can of whoop ass on it. They opened like three tall boys worth of whoop ass
Man.
against Argentina. You know, the same way that what Sweden did to Mexico. I mean, that was
It was one of those. Yeah, I was gonna say it was one of those defeats that it's hard to bounce back from. Uh, and even though Argentina did advance to the second round, they just weren't the same. Same with Mexico. They had the before and after the Sweden game.
yeah, it was definitely not this. Well, I mean, they just really weren't the Argentina that I don't know. I don't. The players are all still really good. It's just something weird's happening there, and that
Yeah,
might
well,
be.
key word again. I feel like Pee Wee's Playhouse. Every time we say the key word, we all have to yell out consistency again. And we see with Argentina, they've gone through like what they became Mexico as far as coaching. They took a page from the FMF, and they were like on their fourth coach going into
Well,
the World
I
Cup.
mean, let's
And
not pretend that this is the first time they've acted like this. I mean, this is.
but I think it's just since Grondona passed away. And it's a lot of the struggles that's going on. So I think that affects as well because yeah, their players have been consistent, but you have all these problems in the locker room, with the front office. There was all this talk about how Messi was the one paying the staff out of his pocket. It just seemed very divided as far as like who was making decisions. So like how the players, a lot of them didn't want Sampaoli at the team. So I think that hurt them a lot.
Right.
That very unfortunate for such a talented team.
and
Uh,
uh, and
because
Sampaoli's there for a while because his agent negotiated a pretty thick
yeah,
buyout for
no,
him, which you know,
yeah,
good for him.
it's like it was like Mexico. Nobody wanted to get in the hot seat.
And in the long run,
He
I think
still
that
had,
actually will work out well for Argentina. As long as if Sampaoli is the coach for Argentina in 2022, then look out.
well, John. Um, yeah, he was at Sevilla, so they had to buy him out, and he didn't. Of course, he wasn't going to quit because if he quits, he pretty much he won't get his
Who will get his
he
money?
won't get his yeah he won't get his money because he's quitting. He needs to be fired, and so there's been some talk that he's getting pushed out, that they're making him coach the under 20 team, and he doesn't want to coach. He doesn't want to coach it, and this was just recent, and our good friend Mati just happened to be in Argentina, you know, to give some interviews. So we'll see how that plays out. Yeah, Mati seems to be popping up at the right places at the right time. Uh, so we all know he's also candidate for the Mexican post.
Right.
But before we get there, I just wanted to one last thing with the whole consistency thing with and the coaching, because Croatia's coach, um yeah, I think he hasn't been with the team that long.
7 months.
Yeah, it's pretty like a Piojo type of thing. Um, so
Well, I mean,
I
it was it
think
was it was a smart decision. I mean, he's a guy that I'm sure that the players,
yeah,
either played with at one point or no. So I'm sure they're very comfortable with each other, and I'm sure with 7 months with those players, and he kind of walked in and kind of did the Tuca thing. He's like, "Hey guys, how do you guys work the best together? We work the best together, play this. All right, that's what we're going to do. I mean, it doesn't take, it doesn't take a
Yeah.
genius. I know that we would probably, you and I would be overqualified, Joel, to
No,
coach.
well, that's why I wanted to say. That's why I'm seeing stuff like that. I'm more inclined to be in that camp that believes that a team, a team's performance is 30% the coach, 70% the players. And when we see things like that, like we've seen with how Piojo managed the team leading to the World Cup, and this man, I forget his name. Um,
Juan Carlos Osorio, Joel. His name is Juan
no, no,
Carlos
no,
Osorio.
no, no, Croatian guy,
Oh, the Croatian guy.
Taco something. Yeah. So I do, I do think that's something to look forward in a coach, someone that can build a good locker room, which is I'll say is one of Almeida's main main qualities. He's pretty good at that.
He is, and we'll be discussing uh, that here in a minute. Now, back to the Croatia game. So Croatia gets, England goes up very early, which sometimes I always feel, Juan, in a game that big, it, having really early success like that, I think kind of changes the way that the coach, obviously approaches. And it seemed like England got just a way more defensive earlier than they should have. And the reality is that they don't have the kind of players to maintain possession and go and try and find a goal. I mean, they were scoring either on the counter or on set plays, and when they needed to score, they just didn't have any. They didn't have the chops to do it, and Croatia just had to make sure they were going to defend the set pieces. They did relatively well, but England outside of set pieces, they just weren't going to score, especially in the second half. They just didn't have it in them to score, and that's why that Mandzukic play was so massive, because it comes off an errant header, and he just happened to spring on the ball and pounce, and he pounced and scored. And in a game like that, Hood, with players, experienced players that have to make that kind of reflexive action, where a reflex like that can change the outcome of the game. I mean, it. I I think we saw the Croatian, the experience that these players have had, and not just playing just league games. A lot of these guys have played really huge games their entire career, so they just have you know this Croatia team is not a team that is they're not just lucky to be there. I mean, this is a really good team, and it would not shock me at all if they managed to get the result against. I think France are favorites, but apenas I'm maybe like 58-42. So it's gonna be interesting. But I do think it's gonna go into extra time and probably penalties, and then who knows
Oh
what
man,
happens.
I think France would take it.
You think so? You
Creo
think they
que ya
take
se
it?
le, se le acabó la gasolina.
They're
Yeah, like you said, they played an extra game. Some fatigue's about to set in. Some calambres, and
and,
I
and
think
France
France is.
has a
They
guy.
just seem. They seem more deep, also, man. Deeper squad.
They have more talent. But France is also one of these really young teams, so they're very inexperienced. They're not as experienced as Croatia, and I think that could that could certainly help them. But you're right, though, the fatigue, and France has one of those guys that is crazy fast, but and is really good on the ball.
And, and they had an extra day to rest.
Yeah, exactly. So you know,
I mean, what more do you like? I mean, you're going up against a team that, like you said, has played three extra times, or pretty much played an extra game. So you add that to the extra day of rest, and that's a pretty good, nice thing to have going into the final. nice advantage.
And let's not forget that France was, you know, 3 centimeters from winning the Eurocopa when Gignac hit the post and was like the 91st minute or whatever it was.
Yeah,
So
they were saying about like talent wise how many players they had left out, how many good players France had left out, and I think they were doing selección de los que no fueron al mundial,
right.
and there was like four French players right there.
I mean, I got to think that if I was Gignac watching the way that Giroud was missing those, I'm not going to call them sitters. I mean, they were clear chances.
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah,
that had to have been driving him crazy. He's like, man, you know, they I get to stay home because of this. No,
yeah, and
but
Gignac would have easily made he would have easily made the Mexican squad.
yeah, who, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So you say France takes it. I'm gonna let you think about that one when we will readdress at the end of the show. We'll see if anybody comes on and changes your mind. We'll give you the option.
No, I'm pretty set. I'm pretty set on it, John.
Okay,
I think that whole extra day, that just having,
extra day,
you
one
know,
less game.
yeah, I think in tournaments like this, I think that is a bigger advantage than it seems.
Right.
You know, especially if you said they're going into extra time, even more.
All right. So let's we'll jump back to World Cup talk here in a minute, but we did say that we were going to talk a little FMF because they're in that weird period, that post World Cup, pre Gold Cup soft spot where they can hire a new coach and take their time hiring a new coach.
And there's a change. The winds of change have blown for FMF, John. Uh, Necio de Maria is being replaced by your tocayo
Yon de
Yon
Luisa,
de Luisa, exactly. Who he was a Televisa man, and he helped organize the what is it on the under
the
17 World Cup,
he
was it?
was the organizer of the U17 World Cup in 2011.
Yeah, and he's one of the organizers for the 2026 World Cup.
No, he
Joint World Cup.
as far as administrators go, I don't think you could. Honestly, I think that this for FMF, there are a few guys that are as competent as Yon de Luis.
And he's a young guy, 46, if I'm not mistaken, John. 46 years old.
Now you're
And
making
I saw.
now you're making me feel bad, Joel. Come on, dude.
Oh, ¿qué pasó? No, I mean compared to his predecessors. And I feel that he's the guy that brought in Dennis Close to replace Santiago Bathrooms,
Right.
or whoever it was that had been in that position after.
And Memo Cantu, and then he brought in Torrado. So it was Jimmy Bath Salts and Memo Cantu that were
Yes,
the brain trust, and now it's Dennis Close,
Dennis.
he was a Chivas man at one point, was he not?
Yes, he was. They hadn't even sent him to Chivas USA. So he was working with the selección
So
as
he has a
youth.
lot of gringo connections then, which
Yeah,
helps.
and he was at Tigres. Well, the closest the guy that got us Jonathan Gonzalez. He's the guy that he
Right.
swooped in and stole him from the U.S. Um, and I think he's one of the kids that's gonna he's because I think that's one of the goals is to get the Olympic team and to groom that squad going into the next World Cup cycle. So a lot of the youth that are gonna feature in that Olympic team, I think that's gonna be the core of the team going into the next World Cup.
Well, see, that's good then, because I mean, to me, uh, I personally believe that the Confed Cup is not the best way to. I think it adds unnecessary. I mean, I know it's nice to play, blah 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 blah, but I mean, it is it's a throwaway tournament.
And John, we must pat ourselves in the back here because when the whole Jonathan thing was going on, I remember in a lot of the other media they were saying that he might go to the World Cup and 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 we said here that he was going to feature in the Olympic team. We said this is a Dennis move, and this is for the next cycle, not this one.
Right. Yeah, there was no way he was playing the World Cup. There was no way.
Yes.
And he even, and of course, and a lot of them like, well, that they promised him the World Cup. No. No, and I think even the kids like, there's no, they didn't promise me anything. So.
Yeah, but just to finish with Sir Dennis here, so he was working with the youth.
Sir Dennis. Okay.
I think he's gonna do a good job. I think
I do too. I think he and he's hopefully he will. Torrado can learn a lot from this guy. And
yeah, he's also the guy that got Mexico the two friendlies in Europe. He's the guy that would just he did that one simple hack that cuts out the middleman.
He called him.
he called up the teams directly.
You didn't go through a promoter.
He didn't go through all that hassle, man. Which was like, I remember the Mexican media was applauding that. They didn't know how it happened, and then the news came out. He just picked up the phone and was like, "Hey, are you guys available?"
Yeah, because it was the weekend of the playoffs, so not everyone was playing. So yeah, it was like first come first serve, because some teams didn't know if they were going to be in the playoff or not, so they didn't have anything scheduled. Yeah, it was. Wow, what a novel, crazy concept, Joel, to pick up the phone and call to schedule those. So Dennis Teclos is the I guess he's the director deportivo or director de selecciones nacionales, and right on him is Gerardo Torrado, and they are going to be the ones that are going to make the recommendation to Yon de Luisa, I'm assuming, and to the other 18 owners. What is the best course of action for Mexico to take for the upcoming World Cup cycle? And the rumor is, and it has been reported by several news outlets, at least over the past couple of days, and then it was negated. It was reported and denied, depending on who you spoke to, that they had extended an offer to Juan Carlos Osorio to stay for the next 4 years. So I don't know what we should believe there, but whether he stays or not, it probably was at least as far as PR, it was a good move, because that at least showed the next guy that, hey, if I stick around and do pretty decently, I might get to do this for 8 years instead of just 4. And I think, that should be the goal for me, at least for this upcoming cycle, is not to think of it as a 4-year cycle, but think of it as an 8-year cycle, because Mexico has a huge opportunity, because they're going to be playing the World Cup at home in 2026. Out of the 10 games that are going to be scheduled in Mexico, I'm thinking Mexico is going to play in at least 3, maybe 4 of them. So that is a big opportunity for Mexico, and they have a crop of young 19, 20-year-old players right now that are decent. Some are very good. A couple of players are outstanding, and as you said, Joel, I think that this upcoming Olympic team, which would be, I guess, a U22 or U20, however it is that they do it, is going to be is going to end up becoming the base, not just for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, but the 2026 World Cup that's going to be played for Mexico, at least mostly in Mexico. So there is reason to think, Joel, that this hire or or an extension for Juan Carlos Osorio should be an 8-year plan and not a 4-year plan. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I agree, but I feel that at the same time I feel that it's more along the lines of if the front office can keep the project going as far as like it being the project of the coach, I prefer it to be like like what Peláez was doing with America.
Right.
Even if you switch coaches, the team still maintain consistency. So I do feel it's important that whoever they come in is on board with what they have planned for the team.
So you're okay with having multiple coaches then, as long as you said as long as
No, well,
but I mean, but
not okay with multiple. Just having a group that's working. Like they have a set goal. So you have the Luisa, the Clos and Torrado, and they're keeping tabs. Like I mean, to me they already started working. Just bringing in Jonathan, and they're working on some of the other youth. To me, they've been working already since before the World Cup.
well, sure. I mean, they're the cake has already been baked for this one. They really don't have to do. I mean, they didn't really have to do all that much for this one. But yeah, so they're they're learning from this one, and said they're already getting ready for
Yeah,
what's beyond here.
and then to be on the team that organized the World Cup, which is which guarantees you home games. That's that's already some big stuff there already. So I
Right.
mean, I don't think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't. You don't need a. Well, I mean, seeing that what they're doing, I don't think why bring in a coach that he's going to say, okay, this is all my ideas. This is what I'm going to do, and then if he leaves or it doesn't work out, you're back to zero.
Well, I mean that's the risk you're going to have to take, and uh, so it goes back to, are they looking at it as a 4-year or an 8-year? And what is going to be their breaking point, for things to go south enough to where they have to make a move, or are they going to say, what, this is an 8-year thing, what happens happens, our goal is to is we want to be at optimal conditions, or just be a team like Croatia and just send a bunch of guys, and play on the top teams in Europe, and and let them get 10 years of seasoning, and
Easier said than done, John.
yeah, play that way. I mean, that's yeah. So it's
Yeah,
I mean, there's definitely some things to consider. So Joel,
no, well, you know what? The planning thing is really important for Mexico because um, we're talking about a league where they just keep raising the limit on foreigners. So it's less and less players now.
right, and
That
it's going to be less and less, because there are teams that are pushing to just leave the game completely. They're thinking, why can't we be like Major League Baseball, where it just doesn't matter? People are rooting for the uniform; they're not rooting for who's inside it. So who cares if they're Mexican or not? We want to have
yeah,
the best league and best players available.
yeah, and you look at the Mexican national team, and I know a big talking point in the Mexican media has been, Mexico handily beat Croatia 4 years ago in Brazil, and now it seems like compared to Croatia, it seems like they went backwards with Croatia going, be making the final, but at the same time, they have all these players playing in these top teams, while Mexico only has about five, which a lot of them aren't even starters.
Well, I
So I
mean,
mean,
I think you're being kind when you say five. I mean, outside of Porto, who plays the Champions League, just occasionally they do really well, but they might make it out of the group stage of the Champions League, and then they'll, if they're quarterfinalists, they've had a good season. Uh,
yeah,
and and that doesn't happen very often. I mean, outside of that, I mean, I can't think of I mean, I know that Chicharito played at Real Madrid and he played at Manchester United, but I mean, he was struggling to get minutes at and Chicharito is just not the same guy he was 7 years ago. I mean, he doesn't have the spring in his step anymore. He's become more of a he's not crashing the box like he was. It's just he
Yeah.
was not at his best. And
Well, yeah, well, that's the thing, John. I don't really see that situation improving. We're not likely to end up with 20 players getting regular playing time in the next 4 years.
yeah, it's gonna be very very hard for Mexico. I think that this for this upcoming World Cup, the chances are pretty high that the base of the Mexico team is going to be heavily Liga MX instead of Europe.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest promesas that the people were hoping would end up in Europe, Pizarro, and he's in Monterrey, and then
Right.
if you look at any younger players, there's very few. You have like Lainez, and you could count them with one hand, of talent that's coming up.
Right. I mean,
So
there's Cesar Montes who probably could
yes,
have a
he's
make a very nice career for himself playing pretty much anywhere he wants. I think he has that kind of talent, ability, and frankly body frame, which is very attractive to the European market. So I think that he's a player that could potentially play for you know AC Milan,
yeah, and that
Juventus, Liverpool. Seriously. He has he has everything going for him in order for him to do that. But is Monterrey going to let him go?
yeah,
And
no,
how
and
much
then
is that going to
John, by
cost?
by the time we send another crop to Europe, some of the players that are already there would already be coming back.
Right.
You know, Chicharito's already he's he's on his last years. Even Layun, a lot of these other guys, they're already at the end of their, you know,
I wouldn't be surprised to see Chicharito come back to Mexico within the next 2 years. I don't think he'll go to
he
MLS. I think he'll go to Mexico first and then go to MLS.
he had an offer from Juventus. He might be regretting it now. He could have, been a Juve with CR7, man. He was at CR7 CH14
Man,
pairing.
I was so disappointed in Lobos Buap that they their offer
Yeah.
wasn't accepted for Ronaldo. They were so close. They were so close. So Joel, so what does Joel when Yon de Luisa calls you next week and he goes, Joel, ¿qué debo hacer, Joel? Dame tu consejo. What would you tell him? What would you tell him?
Well, I say we stick to our plan that we have set, and most likely we bring in a coach that is, he's on board with that stuff. And if it's 8-year proceso, if we can't find a seasoned veteran, we could groom our own. Why not? Well, it's we could like have our own coach. So, and I know this raised some alarm bells, and people are like, "You're off your rocker." We could even take a young coach from Liga MX and just get him ready.
So you would advocate for picking a coach that isn't necessarily the most experienced, but in your mind, by the time 8 years from now, when Mexico 2026 rolls around, this guy's going to be ready to go, and he's gonna get us to where Mexico wants to be.
Yeah, you know what, and yeah, and one thing I've noticed is in I guess Mexico and I guess Mexican culture, we have we have no holdbacks if it's a foreigner doing that than if it's one of our own. So you for example, you could have a Matias Almeida coming into Chivas, arguably one of the biggest teams, you know, and he had about what 2 years experience, and he had only been successful in second division. He his two runs in first he didn't finish them. He never managed to go beyond um, mid table. and we were so welcoming, and he ended up doing really good as far as bringing in trophies, and we could accept that. But if we're to mention one of our own, all of a sudden it's like they're not good enough. Like Nacho, who was coming back from being with Aguirre and coaching in Spain, assistant coach, and it's like no one in Liga MX wanted him. He seemed like he didn't have enough experience, you know. He wasn't
Right.
getting even half. He didn't even get half the chances that like Mati got. So I do think it's something we need to change, man. It's like how are we losing faith in our own coaches? All the big when you look at the selección, all the main trophies they were all won by Mexican-based coaches. You know, from Olympic gold to Confederaciones, you know, to under 17. That was all Mexican coaches that helped the selección win.
Now, do you have somebody in mind, Joel,
I do,
to
sir.
and who would that be, Joel?
I would praise yourself, John. I would get
Wait, hang on,
Puente.
hang on, hang on. Let me let me get prepared for this. Sorry. Let's see. I'm on. Let me get on the right. There we go. There we go.
Okay. Ready?
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Uh, I would consider someone like Rafa Puente Jr. Hey, as long as he's on board with the vision, he's on board with the group. I think a young guy like that, and then you give him a really good assistant, some
Would you?
experienced veteran, a
So
good
you'd give him
assistant coach.
like Carrillo to be his assistant.
Yeah, hey, why not? He's been at the World Cup too. Someone that's been around and that knows what's up. I mean, there's plenty of people. You even have Dr. Mejia Barón. There's a lot of people, and even like Manuel Lapuente. There's a lot of people you could bring in, man. You could even bring in. I bet even La Volpe would be willing to come in
As a
as
bench
some
coach.
type of, yeah, as an assistant, or
I've never, frankly,
Pereira.
I've never understood why La Volpe, why they didn't just give him the youth, like just be in charge of the youth teams.
He could even do that. Like in the '94 World Cup, Alberto Pereira for Brazil, and he had Lobo Zagallo as his assistant. Man,
Right.
talk about having a top assistant there. Someone that had already won the World Cup, and he's your assistant. So I I feel that we have that. Mexico has that. They have they have all those resources that I feel a lot of times they don't take advantage of. And we expect someone to come in with all the answers. We expect a foreign coach to come in and make the difference, and we shouldn't be expecting that. We already went through it. We've had a Sven Goran come in, and we've had an Osorio. We pretty much tried every trick in the book, man. And well, all I'm seeing is every time Mexico played with one of their own coaches, the team managed to win something.
So are you picking Rafa because he's young and he's basically unproven and he's someone that they can mold into what they want, or do you specifically see something in him that says, you know what, this guy could be the guy?
Well, yeah, it's a bit of everything. I wouldn't say mold him, but I think that because if he's willing to be part of that group, and why not do what like JCO was doing, where he was, in the downtime, spending a week with Bielsa and a week with Sampaoli, and FMF could easily do that. They have the connections. They could easily reach out to Pep, have that guy spend 2 weeks there in Man City. So, but I do think as coach, he's shown that he's not clueless. What he did with Lobos Buap. He's held his own. I think he has a good presence. One thing that I think is important, especially with Selección Mexico, is is knowing how to command the press. Having a good relationship with the press, and he's excelled at that. If you've seen some of his pressers, he'll hold the room, and I mean, it's not surprising he had been an actor for probably longer than he's been a soccer coach.
Right.
but he does come from football, at the same time. His dad was involved in that. So he's grown up with that all his life.
Well, here's my deal killer, Joel.
Yes.
Rafa Puente was the goalie on the 1974 team that did not qualify for the World Cup. Are you sure you want to bring that kind of juju back to the World Cup process?
I think we surpassed it because also in that team was La Puente with a full head of hair. You know, if you,
Yeah, but
I've seen clips.
he was never part of a proceso, La Puente. He
Yeah, but
never had qualifiers to deal with.
well,
Look, I
he
understand what you're saying,
he
and I
was on the
think
field when they in the '74. La Puente was on the field when they got
no,
eliminated.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is that when it was La Puente had Mexico, he didn't have to qualify for the World Cup. He did a World Cup, and then just a little after that, he never had to play. So, but Puente was directly involved in not making a World Cup. So, but you're saying that having La Puente on the team cancels that out. I think that it's still too strong on Rafa Puente. To bring the kid in, that's like that. You know what that is, Joel? That's like when Macbeth thinks that he's killed the whole Duncan line, and Banquo escapes, and runs off. So I'm gonna have to. I understand what you're saying,
Well, there's
and
others.
well, I understand. I mean, and the big drawback though for Rafa Puente is that he was barely a professional player, and he's only coached for 2.5. He's only been a coach for 2.5 seasons. So bring him on as an assistant if you're going to bring it. Now, if you want to bring a young guy, well, what other options would you consider?
Hmm. I mean, we have. He's not.
Let me ask you
There's
this: does it have to be a young guy who is a Mexican national, or a young guy who played, essentially his entire career in Liga MX and just happens to be from another country, but is a Liga MX lifer? Would you
no
consider that
both.
person a quote unquote Mexican coach? Because I
Yes,
would.
I would too. I would
Okay.
too, John. If they did their whole career there,
Like
and a lot of these guys even have family, or they
sure,
live.
right,
Mexico's already their home.
right. I mean, Tuca to me is a Mexican coach. I forget that he's Brazilian when he's talking. Sir, until I hear him talking. Seriously. I mean, like
Yeah,
I said,
no.
Tuca and I go way back. For folks that are new to the podcast, I've been a Tuca fan for a very long time.
Well, that's why Turco was a big candidate, but I think he's just had too many problems.
Well, Tuca always took himself out of consideration because he
No,
doesn't
no,
want.
not Turco. I mean Turco Mohamed.
Oh, Turco.
He was candidate, but
Well,
he's just
what
been.
happened was that Osorio kept winning in the hexagonal. Is what happened. Seriously,
Yeah,
and we
yeah,
we
but
talked about it on the show. We would say that Osorio has to get X many points so he doesn't get fired, and he kept hitting the number. Oh, he kept hitting the number.
he did. But at the same time, Turco just left the way he left America, and I know a lot of Americanistas they were angry. But if you see what the things he was doing, where he would just leave midweek
Right.
because he wanted to go see a friendly game at the Vatican. I'm not even making it up. You know, a friendly game, set up for the Pope, or he would say that he needed to go see something about his kid's school in Buenos Aires, and he'll take off and return 3 days later. I mean that.
Yeah, but the national team allows you to do that stuff though, because I mean it's a full-time job, but the reality is that you don't
It
get
does, but it's the way he did it, you know. It's the way he was doing it, where he would just, by the way, I'm leaving, you know.
that would be that would be a great character to play if you're coming up with some like the coach is like had he won his championship by the time he was acting like the 800-pound gorilla.
Yeah, and even like Pelaez was talking about how he wouldn't know, and Pelaez was he was his
Oh,
boss,
so
and
the dude would just
he
leave.
he would tell someone, but you know, wait till I'm gone to tell him, type of thing. So Pelaez will say, we lost a Clásico, you know, against Pumas or Chivas or whomever. And on Monday morning, you know, he shows up waiting to grill the team and try to pick him up. And he'll show up and there's no training. And
Mm.
it's what happened. like, uh, you know, Turco canceled practice. He'll be back in 2 days.
That sounds like like a coach from Club de Cuervos doing that kind of
and
stuff. You know,
you know what it does. And so that was some of the stuff he did at America and then Monterrey. Monterrey gave him a lot of chances, and he lost the locker room twice. Um, you know, the first time he lost it, they let him get rid of some of these players, and then the second time was just, by that point it was just like they figured, okay, you're a bigger problem than we thought, which I think has probably gone to his head. You know, like the whole power thing,
hmm.
because he does come across as like a humble type dude. I remember, and you know what, John, I was in Argentina when he was coaching Huracan, who were in second division, and he couldn't get the team to win, so he quit. He was like, and he's a fan favorite over there. You know, he came out of that team.
Joel,
Uh,
if I didn't know any better, I would say that you are running a pro Rafa Puente and a con Turco Mohamed campaign in the
no,
in the same breath.
I think Turco's not even in that list. I
Yeah,
think that
I don't think
list.
Turco's a
I think
candidate. Turco's gone.
no,
He's in separate
yeah, that list is basically Piojo, Almeida,
in Osorio.
and
Let's be
well,
honest.
I don't know Osorio because I think he came in through some problems and I think he was doing some extra cancha rotaciones at the World Cup. You know, he's giving opportunities to some females he shouldn't be. So I don't know. I think he needs to fix some things before he comes back to coaching.
Okay, so your heart says Rafa Puente.
No, not my heart, my mind.
Your mind. Okay. So
Yeah, my
that
heart
that
would
that,
say Chepo.
that
I would. I'll have a bunch of people canceling on the podcast.
good God.
Tuning off. Uh, hey, the heart wants what it wants, John. But no, my mind was it not necessarily Puente, but someone in that line. You know, someone you could help groom
Well,
and bring in.
who else fits that mold? I mean, there's the Rafa Puente. There's
We've had others like Potro Gutierrez, you know,
I'll tell you
who
who
coach
I'm keeping an eye on. Is Leandro Augusto because
Leandro.
he is Patino's assistant, and I guarantee you, if things don't go well for Patino in the upcoming season, Leandro's going to be Pumas' next coach.
Yeah, and would you have Dante Siboldi as well, who just won with Santos? And not only did he win, he outcoached everyone he played.
Well, here's
He
my,
gets high marks
yeah,
for that.
yeah, he does. There are some local candidates that are very interesting. So, okay, we obviously have our fantasies of what it is that we want, and you've given yours. Now, let me ask you what is going to happen? What is what does Hoel the pragmatist say or the pragmatist say?
Man, up until yesterday, I would have said Almeida, but you know, but I've heard that FMF's not too happy with his self promotion. You know, his promo tour that he's been doing.
That just means that the price went down. This is all. Remember, it's a game. They're sending messages to each
Yeah,
other.
yeah. I mean, because I think to me that's one of the big things right now that you need to focus on is rebuilding the locker room. There's been a lot of talk about how it was divided. You had Chicharo's camp and you had Rafa Marquez camp, and so some of the stuff that went down going into the World Cup. So you don't want to start a proceso like that. We've seen what happened when Hugo came in, and the team was divided because you had all the ex Atlas players.
Right.
They had been all the pro La Volpe, and so I remember some of them. I think it was Marquez who said, I don't know what we're playing at." Pretty messed up, who was just starting, and you have one of your more influential players already talking smack.
He did. He said that's, and he said he also said I didn't agree with the strategy in the making that. I forget who he subbed out in the Argentina game. When I didn't agree with it either. But it's like, dude, you can't. I can say that. You can't say that publicly.
Yeah, and
or at the very least say, hey, you know what? I didn't agree with it, and I told coach, hey, coach, at least don't like air out. Just say, hey, yeah, I did tell him, hey, maybe that wasn't the best decision. But,
yeah, and that Hugo team ended up being in Copa America. It's the Mexican team that scored the most goals.
I am really
which is impressive.
Yeah, exactly.
Because South American just to do that in South America against some of the teams he did it to, it's very impressive. But we like I said again, John, we don't give credit to our own people, man. If this was JCO, we would be praising it. Just how we praise because he beat. Man, we're praising JCO for beating Canada.
I was there. I was in Vancouver for that, and they played very well. They played very well. I was never. I mean, going back to the big soccer days, it was just such a bad decision to fire Hugo. They did it right before World Cup qualifiers were starting. I mean, it was obviously an ego. It was obviously an ego move. But I think at that time it was Vergara who just for whatever reason just wanted to stick it to Hugo.
Yeah, and the Vergara camp right now is the one against Almeida. They're not happy with how
the Vergara camp lost their political capital when Televisa allowed to bring Sven in, and that was a disaster.
It's true, but you need as many votes as you can. And obviously you have some of the like Grupo Pachuca and some of these other that have their own interests. So I mean, if you have less support, it just makes it a bit more difficult compared to how it would have been if,
Well, I mean, I understand, but I mean, let's be honest. There's only one team support the next coach needs, and that's all that matters. The other ones can piss and moan all they want. I mean, that's what's going to happen. So you said up until yesterday you thought Almeida. So now what do you think? What do you think is going to happen? I lost Hoy.
I'm not too sure. I don't really know who they would.
So
they're gonna wait. They're gonna wait for John to return, and then they're gonna make the call.
Your crystal ball is very hazy right now, Hoy. I'm surprised.
It has been, and are you surprised seeing the results at the World Cup?
I'm sorry. What was your question?
No, I mean, are you surprised it's been hazy seeing how the World Cup has been unfolding? It's hazy times, John.
That is true. It's not, it hasn't been the most chalky World Cup, at least in a while. So okay, so back to Mexico. So you're unsure. You thought it was Almeida, but now you think that there's someone polluted the waters, and not so sure what's going to happen. I do think that Osorio will not be the coach coming up, and I do understand your preference for someone, especially if they're going to go and do a full 8-year deal, to bring in somebody. I don't necessarily think that Rafa Puente is the guy, but I do understand where the qualities and attributes that you list would make somebody like that very attractive. I just don't think he has enough experience in that game. I think it's one thing when you have all the when you can make the press conference and Puebla Lobos laugh. I think it's another thing when you have a press conference that's 20, 30 times the size. So it's definitely a different feel altogether. But the reality is that there just aren't really that many young coaches in Mexico. Unfortunately for Mexico, I think their best candidate, I think waited a year too early to make a decision, and I think that would be Diego Alonso. I think he would have been perfect for the Mexico national team. He's a guy who played his entire career in Mexico, was an assistant in Mexico, coached in Mexico. He's not Mexican, but he's one of the guys who's made his career in Mexico, which to me makes him as Mexican as anybody. Someone who knows the league, knows the players, knows how Mexico works. Is a Liga MX guy, but he signed with Monterrey, and I think that's going to be a tough get for him. But I do think that if he stays and has success in Monterrey, if they want to go a 4-year route, then I think he would be an excellent choice for 2026. But I do think, Joel, that it needs, my fantasy is the 8-year proceso, and I would love to see a guy like Almeida do that as long as he has that opportunity. I would have loved to have seen a guy like Vucetich get it. I think Vucetich, unfortunately, is at a point in his career where he's like, I don't want to take on an 8-year project like that.
Was Peckerman? Did he resign with Colombia or?
I'm not so sure if he has or not. The big rumor is that he's going to be the one that goes and takes over Argentina, which I have a hard time believing because I would think that would be more of a money position than a sport position. So I don't think that that's going to happen. But he may take over the quote unquote national teams for Argentina. I would believe that in a heartbeat. But I think as far as running the federation, no chance. But yeah, but the rumor is he is heading back, and of course the rumor is that Juan Carlos Osorio is gonna take over Colombia. So we'll see how that plays out. But like I said,
Yeah,
I would like
with Osorio.
Yes.
Looking at social media, his countrymen don't seem to want him. They wanted him briefly after the Germany game, but then that was short lived.
Joel, I would Juan Carlos Osorio and reading what our friend of the show, Martin del Palacio, was reporting about what he saw as far as how Mexico prepared for this World Cup. It was second to none. It was impressive. Mexico was probably the best organized and best prepared team at the World Cup as far as having everything, every minute of their days, scheduling down to what they served them on the as a meal on the airplane rides. Even I mean that they had everything down to the last detail. Unfortunately for me, this is a results oriented business, and in the games that mattered most for Juan Carlos Osorio, he did not deliver. And in the press conference after every single one of them tells you what Mexico didn't do, and it was his fault, and that's why they lost. And to me, that was as great as Mexico's preparation was in organization and having, making sure that they all have the same kind of, maybe triple ply on the toilet paper instead of regular double ply. I get that. That's great, but you got to deliver. You have to deliver, and Juan Carlos Osorio did not.
Yeah, he was never able to win a second round game.
And I don't necessarily mind that they didn't win, the game again, the second round game in the World Cup. I mean, just getting to the second round in the World Cup is a huge accomplishment. And I think a lot of Mexico fans forget that. I mean, it is It is very, especially for a team like Mexico to make it out of the group stage. It just is. And but again, I mean, it was the Germany game, the Chile game to me was just aside from losing 7-0, just unforgivable to not have your team ready to play for that one. And it's just a huge black mark against them. I just think that black mark outweighs everything else because I mean again you have to bring the results and in tournaments that Mexico could have done very well in, it didn't happen. And again in the sense and the ways that it didn't happen were just
Yeah,
some were scandalous.
the numbers just add up. Like they got the defeats and then the goals against and the goals for. It looks really bad.
Yeah, it's just I mean obviously the 7-0 has a lot to do with that, but I mean Mexico's only scored 2 goals in those games. And actually, is it 2 or 1? I think
What
it's just 1 goal.
7 goals against Chile.
Oh no, it's two
Three
goals. 2 goals.
three against what's it? Three, yeah, three against Germany at the
Four.
Confederations.
Four.
Huh? Four.
Four.
So we're at double
Well,
digits.
1 Jamaica and 2 Brazil, and then Mexico scored against Germany and Honduras, and that's it.
Yeah, to me, but man, that just looks pretty bad. Like, and just going on those three confederaciones, um, World Cup and Copa America, just seeing those results, it just doesn't look too good.
Right. And that to me is just a huge red flag that comes up with Juan Carlos Osorio. And
Yeah, and we've gotten used to seeing a team that Mexico, even if they lost, they at least went down fighting.
right. I
They
mean,
at least,
yeah, that Brazil game was. I mean, it was only a matter of time before Brazil scored, and then you knew that. I mean, then you're hoping. At least I was the back man. I hope they don't. This could get because they did it to Mexico in the Copa America in 2004, where the first half, Mexico held their own and did okay, and then the second half Brazil gets an early goal, and 20 minutes later it's 4-0. It's 4-0, and
yeah.
luckily that didn't happen here, but
But
it could have easily.
what makes the Brazil game worse is the Sweden defeat.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
I mean, there's no question. It was just
it comes hand in hand with
yeah,
that.
it was. I'm not gonna lie. As a fan, the minute that stupid, what's his name, German guy that scored Kroos, he's not stupid, obviously, but he scores that goal. As a fan, it's like from the minute that goal went in until Andres Cantor yelled "Gol de Corea," I had just this terrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. I just it's like it was like just it was a bad omen. It just was not. And I think there were a lot of Mexicans that felt the same way. There was just a lot of generated a lot of bad juju that goal did for Mexico. And it was very unfortunate. And but they just were not ready to play. We're not ready to play. Anyway, so back to it, Joel. I say in your plan. I would like to see a coach like Almeida, but it would be somebody who has like you said, someone that they can build in the position as long as that word that our word of the day, as long as they have the commitment and the consistency to stay the course with what they want to do, which is to reach the 2026 World Cup with a group of 25 to 28-year-olds that can kick much ass. If that's their plan, they need to stick to it. And I think, Joel, that's why you see this upcoming Olympics as such a huge. There's a word, bellwether. Thank you, bellwether, Joel, for the Mexico national team. I mean, it really is going to be an indicator of where things go for Mexico in the upcoming, because that will be the team that plays in the World Cup. Is going to be the Olympic team, because they're going to have that recambio generacional.
Yeah, and it'll be good if some of because you're allowed 3 over 23, so it'll be good to have some that are like 24. They're not necessarily too old.
Right.
So like for example, Titan Salcedo, he's 24, so it'd be good to have him. And I'm pretty sure he would be part of that team.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you want to have a solid defender, a solid midfield. And if you don't have a good goalie, then you're going to want to have a good goalie. So Memo might get to play the Olympics upcoming.
Yeah, that's good with goalie. I think he's easily has another World Cup in
Oh,
him.
he's got at least he could probably have two. So he could probably
He'll,
have two World Cups. Though that would be
so he'll be
so.
the next Cinco Copas.
Yeah. By the way, Cinco Copas Carvajal needed to zip it earlier. It's like, dude, you played 15 World Cup games. Mexico tied one of them. Come on, let's.
Yeah, well, yeah, man. Let's look. Well, guy's probably going senile. He's up there in age, John. He's talking about staged moon landing and all that.
So if Almeida doesn't fit the 8-year plan and neither does Rafa Puente, would they dare bring somebody who's completely cold into this?
I'm thinking they would probably choose in house, and I mean John De Luisa, and he is a Televisa guy, so I mean Piojo's there. Why not? Why not Piojo?
Right. Well, Piojo's always going to be the pinch hitter if things go south. I think he's going to be the guy that's waiting in the wings. And the reality is that Piojo, if he does get another opportunity, I think that's going to be the only way. And I think he has to understand that too. It's like, he kind of did it to himself, the position that he's in. So.
No, I agree, but I think with Televisa, he's proven he's willing to work. He's willing to be part of a team.
Right. No, I understand that. I mean, hopefully it won't come to that, but I don't necessarily think that he would be like one of the immediate candidates. But I do think that he'll be the bombero if things end up going south.
Yeah, but if they can't find anyone, don't you think he would just be the logical choice at that point?
So you're saying he's the safety school.
He's both. Yeah, he's both the safety switch and the bombero. If they find someone, yeah, he'll be the bombero. If they don't find someone, well, he's right there waiting.
Right. I've been here all along. What you didn't know is that what you were looking for was right in front of you the whole time. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And like I said, I don't think Juan Carlos Osorio is going to be the one that stays, even though the rumor is that they have made him an offer. Joel, I cannot stress it enough. This is one that begs to be treated as an 8-year commitment. And if they can get a coach that can stay from Mexico for a couple of World Cup cycles, then with played it.
And that's a big thing right there, because there's a lot of talk that JCO's coaching staff didn't want to stay. They were ready to call it quits a while back.
Right.
They just went through so much. I don't think he wants to go through all of that again.
Yeah, I just don't see it there. And he didn't.
Hey, and he is. I think if the U.S. offers him, I could see why that would be a more attractive offer for him, where he wouldn't have to deal with half of the stuff he deals with in Mexico.
Right. Yeah, he get like 10% of the pressure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is in no way disrespectful toward the position of the U.S. soccer coach. Just the reality is that Juan Carlos Osorio in Mexico says something, he's on the front page of every newspaper in the country. If the U.S. soccer coach says anything, he might get maybe in the major cities newspapers like Los Angeles and New York, but outside of that,
yeah. But midweek they forget about it, and in Mexico it'll become a talking point for the whole week.
Oh yeah, it's constant. Yeah,
and then next match they're bringing it up.
I mean, Mexico's not playing a competitive match for the next year, and we're talking about
it. Yeah. Why don't they have a game in September?
Yeah, but those are friendlies. Who cares about friendlies?
But
okay, so I don't think. Well, I'm torn because I want to believe that they're looking at it as an 8-year thing, just because of who's involved right now, and as you said, the decisions that they've been making.
And no, and they've been going for that. They've been trying for that since Hugo Sanchez, since La Volpe actually. When they brought in La Volpe, that was one of the things that the FMF wanted to do was to have a two, you know, the two a coach go through two cycles,
Right.
and yeah, La Volpe, he just he was just too much. He courted too much controversy with the media. And the second thing was that he also failed to win a second round game outside of Mexico. Only when uh, only the Gold Cup that was hosted in Mexico. That's the only time he won a second round match.
Right.
Other than that, he failed at all of them. So I think that cost him his job. And then when Hugo got the job, you even had, I think was it Necio or was it the other guy? But they were talking about how that was a plan to keep Hugo. But again, he just came in a cloud of controversy. I don't think he did himself any favor with, you know, every time because when La Volpe was coach,
Oh
the
yeah.
media would go to Hugo and Hugo would gladly go off, you know.
Right.
We should have just stayed quiet, but he just couldn't hold back, which is kind of the same thing he's doing right now.
Well, I mean, Ugo is insisting. Well, he's insisting two things. First thing he's insisting is that my plan was a 12-year plan. This would be the culmination of the plan. We would be playing in the World Cup final if they would have followed my plan. So that's
You know,
saying that.
I
The other
think
thing, go ahead. The other thing he's saying is the Mexican national team coach should always be a Mexican. Those are the two
I,
things that Ugo says.
I agree with a lot of what he says, and I think he's a good coach, and I think he did a lot of great stuff at Pumas. But unfortunately, he's just hard to work with, you know, and that that hurts him. That hurts his chances. That's why he hasn't been coaching too much in Liga MX, and why FMF is unlikely to give him a phone call.
Well, I mean, he hasn't coached in over 5. I mean, he's not getting a call, so he can go. He can keep
No, but yeah,
talking
it's
on
unfortunate.
people if he
But
can.
it's unfortunate because I think he brings a lot to the table. But it's his attitude, you
I'll tell
know.
you what, I would if Ugo could handle it, I would bring him on and have him coach my strikers. I would say, man, you be my striker guy. You show the strikers what to do. I would kill to have Ugo be that guy.
Yeah, but see, I would say Sigo. Does Sigo allow him to do that? Like,
Well, that's
you know
the
what I
thing. I
mean?
mean, like, would he allow himself to do that? And the answer is probably no. But I mean, it would be great. And that's one of the things that I was most disappointed about in the whole Ugo era was knowing that Vela and Chicharo and Giovanni were coming up and like, man, they're gonna have a guy like Ugo, a guy who was so good offensively, and consistently good for so many years. Teach these guys, how to find space in a and the secrets of getting open and being that guy and making yourself available and all that stuff. And it just didn't happen. It's like ugh. It's just very, very
Yeah.
frustrating.
Well, yeah, he was unfairly sacked, but
Yeah, it was a bad
hasta,
decision.
hasta aquí llegué, John. Which I saw my cambio arrived on time. El profe, we're gonna do a rotación right now.
Oh,
Yeah. The
But
card
I gotta head to
the
work,
card is
so
up. The
I
card is up. The card is up.
the
The, re- the,
cambio.
the referee is allowing the substitution.
Yeah.
so you're slowing
Bueno,
down the game?
No,
what?
no, we need to finish strong, profe. We need to
Oh,
finish
Yeah,
strong.
oh, I thought you know,
yeah.
'cause, sometimes they make a sub to kind of kill the game and
Oh,
kill the rhythm, the opponent's rhythm.
it
No,
was.
no,
Is that how
we
you're seeing yourself, profe, or you're seeing yourself as the like the Ole
No,
Gunnar
listen,
Solskjaer
no,
type of
no,
cambio? You know, you, come in to score the clutch goal.
Yeah, are you the closer, profe, or are you the guy that they bring in when we need to get a goal?
Matar,
No,
matar
no,
tiempo.
the way I see it, this is a, this is like a summer friendly. I'm the star. I'm not gonna play, 30 minutes.
you're just coming in so that the people that paid the high price won't be that disappointed.
Is that so? Who made
Exactly,
you pay for
exactly.
this stuff, huh?
You know,
Wow, profe. Wow, profe. Joel, sorry.
I think it's a pretty humble stance. Don't you agree, John?
Well, I mean, yeah, absolutely. You're, the guy that we go to when we ask specific questions. Uh, Profe Cambiarrayas, we were talking Almeida, but the Joel is bearish on Almeida becoming the national team coach.
Yeah, it does. So it's a big possibility, Jolie.
No, he thinks that it has been.
Oh,
Actually, I guess Joel, no, he thinks that Almeida's hurting his chances, or the damage has been done on the Almeida cause to join the national team in the
yeah, I
PR
guess
battle.
he's trying to. It looks like he's trying to get a public support for it and pressure the owners. I mean, maybe he's just. I mean, you could think, yeah, that maybe he's like, you could see it two ways. Either he's trying to get public opinion, or maybe he's trying to make his case and telling these guys, look, I want the job. I'm in. These are my qualities. It just depends how you want to view it. So I don't necessarily think he's hurting his chances. But if you think, like, if the owners think the way, you know,
The way they do.
yeah, the way they do. I mean, I don't know.
Well, you've read the accounts and the stories about how the egos that these guys have. I mean, if one guy shows up in a limo, then the other guy shows up in the helicopter, and then the other guy shows up in the double helicopter. It's all a big ego stroke. So I mean, I could see how, you're going to talk like that about this. Well, guess what, pal? We were going to pay you $2 million a year. Now it's down to 1.5. So what do you think of that? So I think that there's, definitely give and take on both sides. It's all part of the negotiation. So the question I asked Ho, and I ask you this question, and then we'll circle back to the World Cup is, okay, you have John de Luisa has called you. He wants your advice. He's like, profe, ¿qué tenemos que hacer? And what would you tell him as the head of the national team, knowing that there's a World Cup in 2022 and they're hosting a World Cup in 2026? Go, profe.
Well, I think the first thing is you got to keep the same manager for 8 years. I would tell them to
come hell or high water. Just make sure you keep the same guy.
Yeah, find the right guy to build, to work with for 8 years. But find a guy that builds, that likes to build from the ground up. Maybe continue with Osorio for another 8 years. I mean, the national team, I don't know if I would continue with him. But maybe like an Almeida or somebody that can handle the short term and in the tournament as well. Somebody can handle qualification. I would probably tell them to, as the clubs, to some of the youngsters, anybody under 20 that wants to go abroad, let them go. There's if unless they see them as part of their. Wait, well, how big is the squad now? 23 or is it 18? I know 18 suit up, but
what, for the Olympics or for the World Cup?
I'm just thinking for, like, change
or
the rules
a club team.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's 18. So you say it should be 23, like it is in the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, they shouldn't have like a roster of 40 players, and they're only gonna, only like 23, 25 have a chance to really dress.
Right, and only 18 are the ones that dress. So you're saying expand the amount of players who dress to 23.
No, I would say add release clauses to the players, or even if let's say you got a player that wants to go abroad, they got interest, their agent got them a place, let them go, and then the federation will compensate. If they feel like they lost money, uh, just start letting players leave because there's not enough spots. So you need convince the owners that hey, we're gonna be hosting, so we want to run like Russia. So I want more players anytime, even if it's abroad, even if there's a 10% chance or 1% chance that they make it. But if you get enough players going abroad, maybe some of them, it's like you throw
So you
mud on the
want
wall.
as many Mexicans as possible playing soccer between now and 2026. Wherever, if it's in Mexico, Costa Rica, USA, Spain, Argentina, Colombia, wherever they can get a spot, play. As long as you can play.
And I think that the second thing is increase. This is actually Jolie's idea, but I agree with him that they got to take second division a little bit more seriously. Maybe increase the sponsorship money available to them. Maybe kind of do like what's that, revenue sharing, like kind of like NFL.
Well, yeah, I mean, where they share all the revenue. Period.
Yeah, maybe give the second division team. I mean, because I imagine the TV stations, if you, that's kind of the challenge too, right? You can't get them in a bidding war because there's a gentleman's agreement there. But maybe for the rights abroad, you could package them and make some money, and then maybe uh, the home rights as well. The Mexico, the national broadcasting rights, maybe get a little bidding war between Televisa and TV Azteca and what was the other network? Slim's network, right?
Yeah, Claro. I mean, there's Claro, there's ESPN, there's Fox. I mean, there's at least in this country, starting this season, like Monterrey is going to be on Fox Deportes, and the Cholos are going to be on Fox Deportes. They might even be on FS1 or FS2 as well. So
yeah, so every team's like negotiates their own contract. So bring everybody to the table, tell them, hey, long term, it's gonna benefit everybody. Uh, Maybe the second thing is, I think the Moleros, they have to change where they play these games, man, because you go like Mexico lost Nestor Araujo, to an injury in May, uh, and if it was on a routine slide tackle because just the field was bad. Uh, the previous cycle they lost Chapo Montes.
right, and they came very close to losing Rafa in the same game, like 5 minutes later, where a guy stepped on him, and he's basically stepping on him on concrete, with an inch of dirt and sod, and Rafa came really close to breaking his foot, and if that would have happened, Mexico's chances in that World Cup go down considerably. I mean, even at 30, what was Rafa then at 34 was still Mexico's best player in the 2014 World Cup. So no, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's if they can actually put a long-term plan together, and we've talked about aggregating the television contract on this show, pretty much as long as we've been doing the show. There has to be a good incentive for a Lobos BWAP to earn promotion. Then they come up and then they can't sign a TV contract because the TV station is like, no one's going to watch you. No one cares about you. We don't want to, why bother?
Yeah.
Whereas in England, because they aggregate the television contracts when they come in, right off the bat, I'm not saying they're going to get this much, but right off the bat, the team gets, here's, 70 million euro because this is your share of the TV contract or whatever the number is. That just doesn't happen in Mexico.
Yeah. And the money shared top to bottom. So even though, even the what's that called, the League One or what the championship.
Oh yeah, the championship, exactly. Yeah, the championship is like probably like the fourth best league in Europe. The English second division.
They get paid pretty well. So what I would also do, John, is really limit the foreigner spots in second division. And I would put the manager they as one of the spots. So if they have a foreign manager, that counts as a foreigner spot.
Right.
So if let's say the cap is 3, you use one on your manager, then you got 2 left. Uh, and I think that's one way to promote the national coaches, and then keep with the education, because I think these guys do their the coaching license is like one and done. You do it once, that's it. You don't have to keep educating yourself. I think they have to add a stipulation. Okay, you need this many. You got to take this amount of courses. Every 2 years. Like let's say 2 courses in 2 years, or seminars. Keep bringing in guys that are like that are pushing the envelope. The bleeding edge stuff. They don't have to apply everything. They have to be exposed to these ideas.
Another thing that I
You know
would
what I mean?
consider doing. Yeah, no, it's. I mean, geez, you're giving us your manifesto. It's fantastic. It's.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's things that you ask yourself, why haven't they been doing this all along? And another thing that I would do to help strengthen the second division, and also to make the players understand, be exposed to more better competition, is if you're say you finish in the top 4 of the clausura or whatever it is, in the next tournament, your U20 teams play the second division. Whoever
Yeah.
finishes in the top 4, then your 4 U20 teams, you guys get promoted to the second division, and then they can't obviously earn promotion, but one, it fills out the second division schedule. Like they have like 12 teams. Well, now they can have 16, and 2, it gives the U20s exposure that they're just not getting playing other U20 teams.
Exactly. Maybe
And
maybe make it like under 23 second division for the affiliate teams.
right, like they used to have, like who was the Guadalajara? It was it Tapatío or whatever it was. Pumas had Pumas Morelos.
Coras.
No, yeah,
When they
but
had
before
Coras.
Coras, it was called Tapatío, and Pumas had
Yeah, I
Pumas
think
Morelos, and Cruz Azul had Cruz Azul Hidalgo, and América had Socio Águila.
Chivas Tijuana an affiliate there
Yeah, so I mean,
at
it's
one
not
point.
like they haven't done it in the past. So I think they can get back to that, because there is going to be a generational overhaul that's going to have to happen in this next World Cup cycle. A lot of Mexico is one of the oldest teams in the tournament, and it's going to be there's going to be a lot of there's a lot of players that have a real good opportunity here to cement themselves as part of this upcoming process. So Juan, you've told us everything you want. Now tell me. Now give
Oh
me.
wait, one more. There's one more thing, John. Actually,
Well, hang on. All right.
I proposed this in the Twitter chat. I was kind of brainstorming, but I like the idea. For the second division champion, they also get a spot to. Well, first of all, get Mexico back into Libertadores. I think. I think that tournament has been great for the clubs, and I think it helps the managers more than it does the players, because the managers get exposed to just a little bit better. It's kind of like Champions League. You know,
Sure. No, it is unfortunate that they don't play that tournament anymore, and hopefully they will. Well, I mean, the reality is it would be great for CONMEBOL and CONCACAF to combine and play one tournament. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, and so I think once they got in, it would be important for the second division side to get one spot. So you promotion.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no second division teams that play the Libertadores, so I don't think second division teams. You can't do that to a first division team. I mean, that's as Ron likes to say on the show, hay niveles, and you just yeah, that can't happen. This for the second division team.
always the first division. Win spotlight from now, not the so let's say 2019 they're promoted. Uh, going to Libertadores right away.
Because I mean,
Get that.
you have to earn going to Libertadores by playing first division games.
You
So
think so?
that's absolutely. There's no. I
mean,
get
you know what?
it's just an insult to the first division teams. I'm being serious
Yeah, yeah. Well,
let
see,
the second division team play just because they earn promotion.
but the problem is that Mexico is in CONCACAF, so CONCACAF brings the the hammer down anytime they try to send the better teams to Libertadores. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm
Well,
trying to find a loophole.
CONCACAF needs to be realistic, and I think they're starting to show that because now they're playing the CONCACAF Champions League in the second half of the season, right?
Mhm.
At
Yeah.
least the Mexico teams, the U.S. I think they're doing that so that they can play some kind of tournament, club tournament, international cup tournament in the first half of the season. What that tournament is, I don't think is yet to be determined. But I do, because that's when they play this with Americana. So I do think that there is an opportunity there to have a competition with South American teams in the first half of the season. That isn't the Libertadores, but it still
Some type of
accomplishes
well,
what it is that you
what
want.
what I was thinking, what I was thinking, John, it's kind of like UEFA Cup. Like if you win UEFA, I think that gives you a spot in the Champions League, right?
Right, right.
So that's kind of what I was thinking with Mexico's second division team earning promotion, and then having a chance to play Libertadores, and then find a way to get Mexico 4, 5, and 6. Uh, well, actually, it's 3, 4, 3, 4, and 5. Into Libertadores. I mean, that's the other, or give one spot to the Copa MX champion, and
Well, I
to
mean,
the
it used to be that the two Copa Americas champions would play in the Recopa, and the winner
yeah,
would get the third Cupo, which was the playoff one. I mean, I do
yeah.
think that the fact that there's nothing going on in the first half of the season, I think, is a harbinger of what is possibly in the works. Uh, I mean, don't think that CONMEBOL didn't see the crowds when they played the Copa America in the States for the games that they probably weren't expecting to see crowds in. And I mean, I know that Ron has talked about this, and I agree with him. The dream is to have an intercontinental tournament with clubs in both North America and South America, and Central America, of course, and the Caribbean, that rivals the Champions League.
And national teams, and then national
No,
teams.
in club teams
Oh, and
that
club teams.
rival, in club teams that rivals the Champions League.
Well, you know what? Since I think Mexico stopped going to stop sending their best teams to Libertadores, I think there hasn't been a champion outside of Europe. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, I'm not looking at the stats very. It's like a very loose, but a lot of gray area. But generally speaking, Mexico hasn't stopped really competing in Libertadores. They
And,
put that tournament
you
in the.
think that because of that is what is taking the edge off the South American player?
I think so. I mean, there's so many factors, John. I mean, obviously having so many of them play abroad, uh, so that when you want to work with the players, it takes them like a day to get over. Then, they're jet lagged. You can't really train with them. I think these guys need to be. Although Brazil and Argentina, they do a lot of friendlies in Europe, actually.
Oh, they only do friendlies in Europe. I mean, if they don't have to go back to play the qualifier, they're not
Yeah,
going
yeah.
anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
they stick around. And they're obviously a hot. They're a sought after friendly opponent. If they don't,
yeah.
they don't have. What I'm
Eh,
trying to say is that they don't have problems finding a game.
exactly.
Yeah.
So remember when Maradona came over, he took over the national team. he did qualifiers with a domestic squad because he could work with them a little bit more frequently. They're not flying over jet lagged.
Right.
Oh, and I think that hurts the South American team. So
Yeah,
you
but they all
know,
have to go through that in qualifying. But I
yeah,
mean, to me, what hurts the South America teams, what has hurt them is the fact that there are so many of them that play on the top teams in Europe. Across the entire continent. Whether you're Uruguayan, Argentine, Brazilian, Colombian, even though Colombia has a lot of players that are playing in the top leagues. Uh, in the past, we've seen Paraguay do that. We've seen Ecuador jump up. We're seeing Peru doing it now. So, but consistently, it's always been Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay. And I think that they've been playing in Europe so much that they really have kind of lost their identity a little bit of the style of play that they have. I think more in Argentina and Brazil than Uruguay, because Uruguay's always kind of been a more of a cold weather style, I guess I'll call it. Whereas Argentina,
Stoke
yeah,
City.
exactly, and Argentina and Brazil obviously play a lot more of the possession game, more of a warm weather game, and but I think that's been that Argentina and Brazil have problems because the 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 coach wants them to play like that sometimes, but I don't think the players can, because they haven't done it for so long that it's hard for them to get back to it, and so they end up playing a style that is much more defendable or defensible rather by the other, particularly the European national teams, because I mean, they face these guys every week, whereas up until the late '80s, early '90s, Brazil didn't send that many guys. I remember I think at the '82 team only 3 or 4 played in Europe, the rest played in Brazil. So it was a completely different style than what the Europeans were used to. And I don't think that's nearly. I don't think that is as prevalent today. And they've had. I mean, this is the 4th World Cup in a row that's going to have a European winner.
Yeah, man. And you know what? It could be the second World Cup that has a new it could have a new winner. Last time it was between Spain and Netherlands. Spain won, uh, and now we're gonna have another new champion. I mean, it's a 50 or maybe less than 50 chance, but if Croatia wins, that's another new champion that's from Europe.
Yeah, no, it's Croatia is on the brink of joining a very exclusive club, and
Yeah, John. To add to what you mentioned is and more these European teams they look more like the land style, the South American style, right? The touching, the moving the ball, the offensive players. Like Croatia, Belgium. They're attacking teams. They're not sitting back trying to playing the Stoke City style.
right. No, I mean, I think
Um,
that's what shocked people about, I think that's why Germany was so successful
yeah,
in 2010 and then definitely in 2014, because I mean, I remember I was telling my wife, I was like, Germany is playing more like Brazil than Brazil. I mean, I mean, with the possession game and the tiki taka and the whole bit, and yeah, it was, that had to be tough for Brazilians to watch Germany, beat them at their own game and beat them so soundly. Profe, I wanted to read to you these are the club
wait,
teams
John. I
that.
have one more point.
Well, one more point. Go ahead.
The changes I would tell Jan Delisa. Uh, I think my last point would be uh, all the professional teams. I would bring in a consultant company to evaluate all the youth programs. From facilities, infrastructure, coaching, and teaching, classroom education, off the field stuff as well, personal development, character development, and so forth. So that because most of them they're not gonna pan out, so they need like something to go back to and be productive either maybe future coaches or something else.
Right.
And I would ask this company to also one of the big points for me as far as development, teaching these kids is have a technical coach to their first touch, improve ball mastery, so they're and then have a 1v1s coach, just a coach just to be your opponent on the dribble. A coach for headers, kind of NFL style. We're bringing in coaches now for specific things. A finishing coach, uh, and then also they don't have they one coach to help the players learn to read the game. So I mean, naturally, that's gonna happen. That's probably one of the
Isn't it
big things.
crazy
And then
that most teams just have one guy do all that?
yeah, I mean, it's terrible, dude. And also grade these guys based on how they teach. For example, if my training sets it up so that you find the answers, but the training led you to the answers, that's good. But if I set up a simple training and I spoon feed you all the answers, how to what to read, when to read, then that's you're not really you're not a useful, you're not becoming a player that reads the game. You're just like a robot I have to program, like a
Right.
good strong sub. So rate them on how they teach these players, so that the player goes in and he can he reads the game like we don't have, so less maybe Jurgen Dams, just different types of players.
What, you don't like seeing guys just streak down the wing and kick the ball out repeatedly? Just,
Exactly, John. So I mean, it's okay to, if you're athletic and you want to, maybe you have genetically you have an advantage where you're gonna be in the top percentile of athleticism. But imagine if you're athletic and you're like Lukaku, perfect
exactly.
example.
So just about to
He's
say that.
athletic, but he man, his movement off the ball. I don't know if you saw if you saw some of the analysis for him, but his movement off the ball, John, it created great chances for Belgium.
No,
Even though
he was
you know
he was probably the best jalamarcas of the World Cup. I mean, he was a dragnet, a defender dragnet. It was impressive. I wanted to read to you, Profe. These are the club
okay,
teams. These are the club teams that Croatia players. Lokomotiv, Besiktas, Sampdoria, Liverpool, Atletico Madrid, Kiev, Leverkusen, Red Bull, Salzburg. They were in the Europa final. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Fiorentina, Inter, Juventus, Inter, Milan, Hoffenheim, Schalke, Eintracht.
untrained Frankfurt.
Yeah, Eintracht Frankfurt. That's a pretty solid team. That is a pretty
So
solid team.
what about the Puebla Lopus Boab? Anything
Well,
there?
Peru had 4 players from Lobos Buap on their. Peru did not make it out of the group stage. Uh,
No.
the
Man, but
Lobos Buap power was not enough for them
it was
to
not
get out
enough.
of the group
Pumas,
stage.
any Pumas guys on that Croatia team?
No Pumas. There was a one of the Pumas, the Puma, I should say, had a pretty good World Cup. He did have a pretty good World Cup. He made one fatal flaw, however, in the Brazil
Oh, Gallardo.
5 yards.
I don't blame Gallardo though. I mean, they put him 1v1 against William. Williams freaking, he plays week in and week out against the Piqué, the companies. I mean,
Oh, but see, and that's why I think Croatia has a really good chance, because
yeah,
they've been playing one-on-one against the Williams and the Piqués and everybody for 10 years. I mean, this is
yeah,
a solid, experienced team. France is a young team, very talented team, explosive team, but they aren't as experienced as Croatia. So I think Croatia, because I think Croatia's guile gives them a puncher's chance in this game, Profe, where I think that let me just say this: if it goes to extra, if it's finished in 90, France wins. If it goes to extra time, I was con Croatia. I think Croatia will win in extra time.
They find a way to
Yeah, they've
come ahead, huh?
I mean, what can you say about the midfield that Mexico's that Gallito turned inside out in the last World Cup? I mean, that has not happened in this. I mean, those guys are, and Joel and I talked about it earlier. I mean, both Modric and Rakitic, since that World Cup game, what did they do? They played solidly and consistently for 4 years at Barcelona and at Real Madrid.
I mean, look at Modric coming off a 3 in a row
Champions League. Yeah.
Under Zidane, and you know what, and one of the other players, I forget his name, is it Perisic or something? He also plays for Real Madrid. I mean, their bench is actually it's awesome, man. They've got a. Is he at Real Madrid? I thought he was at one point. Maybe he's not there anymore.
No, there was somebody. I said Real Madrid twice. It was
I think it's Perisic because I remember
no,
Osorio
it's Kovacic. Kovacic plays at Real Madrid.
Kovacic. Yeah,
Perisic only plays at Inter. He only plays at Inter.
Only plays at Inter.
Only at Inter.
The Perisic?
Only Inter.
Oh, jeez, yeah, man. And all those clubs are Champions League clubs. They're like, I mean, outside of the German clubs you mentioned, most of them are contenders. Dortmund,
traditional powers.
Dortmund and Bayern. I mean, they knocked out Spain. That was, that last cycle where Germany were champions.
You're right. I mean, this is a solid. Now, the other thing we did mention is Croatia. By virtue of playing 3 games in extra time in the knockouts, have played one more game than France has because they've played 90 more minutes and they have 1 day less of rest. So fatigue could be a factor. And if you have a guy, you were talking about Lukaku with how impressive he is. Not just athletically, but his ball skills are amazing, and as you said, his off the ball movement was probably the best of the tournament. Mbappe is not too bad either. Now he's obviously not as experienced as Lukaku. He has his talent is a little more raw.
He's out. Lukaku's out. He's Belgian.
Well, I know, but I'm saying that Mbappe may not have the same qualities as Lukaku, and he's obviously a lot younger, not as experienced. But man, he is fast and he's good on the ball, and that could be a real problem for a team that might have dead legs.
You know what? And they collect Mbappe as I think the fastest guy in the World Cup.
Dude, did you see what he did to Argentina?
Oh,
I mean, he ran right by right by him, like they were standing still. And I think that's where I think France does have a rather large edge, is their speed against dead legs, and so I think that is something that could be a determining factor. Now, again, Mbappe is only 19 years old. I mean, this could be, if he ends up getting a couple goals in this World Cup final, then he's going to be the $200 million guy.
Oh, sheesh. Well, so, Real Madrid's on the market, man.
Well, of course they are. I mean, is anybody ever surprised when Real Madrid? I wouldn't be surprised if they made a stupid offer for Harry Kane.
I was thinking that they're gonna go out for Hazard because he had a
but he's already isn't he on the?
Well, he was with Chelsea. I'm not sure.
Well, I understand that, but isn't he at the age where maybe?
Oh, you think he's too old?
It's gonna start. He's gonna start
declining.
Yeah. I'm not saying now. I'm not saying maybe even next year, but maybe in 2 or 3 years. I mean, Real Madrid. James was what, 22 when they signed him. They have Mbappe's 19. He's already played for 2 years at PSG. Again, to me, if he has a good World Cup final, then there's no doubt in my mind he's going to be at Real Madrid.
You think so? You
Yeah,
think Mbappe's the guy they're
if
looking
it's
at?
oh yeah. I mean, it's especially Real Madrid is not going to allow the World Cup hero to not play for them. That's just who they are. It is just who
Yeah.
they are. I mean, they did it with James in 2014. You know,
Oh man,
they've done it with. I mean, if there's anybody who comes up who's just a major star like that isn't playing in England or Italy, they snatch them up. It's who they are.
yeah. Then I guess it's Harry Kane, man. He's the only.
Yeah, exactly. If it's not Mbappe, then it's going to be it could be Harry Kane. But now Harry Kane, I don't think will move to another English team. But I think Real Madrid would be awfully enticing for him. Although, admittedly, three of his 6 goals are penales, are they, or is it just two? I thought it
There
was
you go.
three.
Hey man, they call him Penaldo for a reason, Cristiano Penaldo. So
That's
perfect sub.
true. Yeah, that's
So, so, so what's going on with the HH and Chucky Lozano rumors? I heard they're both Real Madrid's looking at both of them. They're the German Slayers.
well, actually, I can see because Lopetegui is the coach and he was his coach at Porto in the past. So
Yeah.
but Chucky, I don't think Chucky is. I think Chucky needs a year of Champions League before he goes anywhere.
You know Chucky's manager is so there's two like big time European managers or promoters or agents. I'm sorry, agents. All right, the correct word. And Cristiano Ronaldo's agent is Jorge Mendes.
Right.
The big time. And his only opponent, his biggest rival is Chucky's manager, Chucky's agent, Mino Raiola. I think he's Italian, and he fired his old agent and he hired this guy. So well, I mean those guys they don't take. I mean they're not gonna take the trophies is too big for those guys. But
Yeah. But I don't. Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly.
Omar, they want the Fierro,
I
Omar Bravo.
heard.
They're too big time for them.
I
But
heard that Trophy's had a good game tonight, Profe.
oh yeah, man, I heard he scored.
You know, it wouldn't surprise me, Profe, and I mentioned this earlier in the week that if Messi if Barcelona sell Messi, which frankly, I mean at this point, uh, I would if Chelsea or somebody makes me a dumb, a stupid money offer, I think you got to take it for Messi. But
Oh, I thought, and you
but
think Barcelona's lining up a bid?
well,
It's gonna take.
I think there could be a bidding war between Barcelona and Real Madrid for La Trophies.
Well, don't forget Guardiola's a big trophies fan. He's a trophies chaser.
Is he a
So
trophy chaser too?
I think so, man. I think he's I mean, who else but trophies
And
could.
and they have oil money, Manchester City, so they could they could outbid them all. Like it's
Yeah.
nothing.
Well,
But do
you
you
know
think
what?
La Trophies has the game to play in the Premier League? He seems more suited to Spain.
I think. I mean, look at Gabriel Jesus. He plays in the Premier League, and he's not a really physical guy, but he's incredibly fast.
Man, he was my biggest disappointment of the World Cup. Like overall disappointment was he didn't score one goal. He
Yeah.
played
Well,
he played 90 minutes of almost every single game, and he did not score once. And I thought he was going to be the breakout, super duper superstar for Brazil.
freaking Firmino, he only played like he probably has
Yeah,
the
he
best.
comes in the second half exactly, and it scores goals in every game he comes in.
Yeah, man, he's probably got like he scored a goal every 5 minutes or something.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When I saw him come in the Mexico game, I was like, "Oh man, this is not good." As the trash talking Guarita would say.
No bueno.
And that was.
No, man, I told you guys. I think I mentioned to you guys that's the one player. To me, that's the only player of Brazil that intimidates me, man. Because
I don't
I mean,
understand why he didn't start from the very beginning. I just don't get it. He was so much better than than all three, Coutinho and Neymar and Jesus. He was better than the three of them.
Yeah.
I mean, he just had so much energy, and yeah, it was just it didn't make any sense to me. Did not make any sense to me at all.
Yeah, I mean
All right,
he's
so
just a
you've given us
force.
your wish list, Profe. So what is really, knowing how the FMF operates? What do you think is what do you think?
Man, you know how they're gonna do it. Hey, okay, they're gonna look at the TV stations. Okay, which guy do you guys want? All right, which one's gonna give us the ratings? You know what? Give us
Well, if
2
they're
years
looking
of,
for ratings, it would be Almeida.
or well, I was thinking 2 years of Piojo. Let him do something stupid again, and then bring in a guy to but you know what? But you know what surprised me? They stuck with Osorio for 4 years, man, and even and prior to that, they tried to stick with Chepo. Remember Chepo? He started off great. He
Right.
was, the team was doing fantastic.
Oh
The
yes, we were all there. We were all there. We were thinking we were on the precipice of greatness
Yeah, and but
as
what
Mexico
surprised me,
fans.
I mean, what surprised me is the federation. They wanted to be patient with him. They wanted to let him correct the course. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of, John, that maybe symbolizes that they're realizing the carousels. Maybe they're losing the money, so they gotta just try to stick with one manager and see it through, and maybe. So that's why those. I'm sure you guys we were all surprised, right, by the Osorio appointment, because
Well,
like,
the thing that kept him from getting fired was the fact that he kept winning, especially in the qualifiers. So
yeah,
after the Siete Cero happened, the qualifiers hadn't started yet. At least the hex hadn't started yet. So I mean, we even on this show we were talking about it, and we were like, what does he have to do for, like, this moving forward? And we said he had to beat the U.S. and Columbus, and he did that. Because remember,
yeah.
if he loses that game, if they lose 2-0 or whatever, and then I forget who they played after that. It was
I think it was a home game.
no, they had two
May-
road games in a row. They went to Panama and they tied that.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
it was yeah. So they had two road games to start off, and if he comes out of that with 0 points, he would have been fired. And then
You think
we
so?
kept saying it on the show. He needs to make, out of these two games, he needs to make at least X points, and he kept hitting the number. So
I think he kept exceeding expectations.
oh, there's no question. There's no
Yeah,
question. Even on this show, I mean, we were, going into every round of the hex, we were expecting him that if he doesn't, if Mexico loses or whatever it is, and if they lose at home, but he's done, he's toast. But it didn't happen. So to your credit, they didn't fire him after the place where if it was going to happen would have been after the Copa America after the Boda Roja, but they stuck with him then. And,
or
and frankly, in retrospect, maybe that was a nice signal for them to say, hey, yeah, okay, it was embarrassing, got your ass kicked. We all look like schmucks, but the real prize is in 2 years, so let's keep it going. And frankly, as a fan, I mean, after beating Germany 1-0, you're thinking, holy crap, this is finally happening. And
yeah,
it went from the más a menos, unfortunately, for Mexico in the World Cup.
John, and how much, after that 7-0, how big of a factor do you think it was the players, Rafa organizing these guys and telling them, hey, we gotta come out, we gotta show our faces, and we gotta just eat the crow, because we were on the field. I mean, I think that was probably the biggest factor in Osorio not getting fired, because
Yeah, I mean the players went out there and then they took it like a man. And every single one. I think we even that was when we had Fernando as our correspondent there, and he said that they all came out, every last one of them, and they all talked and they all took their time. I mean, really, it was probably kind of cathartic for them too. It was a big step. Again, the organization. When they played in Columbus, in the past, the Mexican players would fly to Mexico City. That sometimes they wouldn't get there till late. Whatever it was just it's a big pain. Uh,
yeah, the
because there's not that
logistics.
many nonstops from Europe to Mexico City. Yeah, so he changed all that, and he changed the way that they organized and how they practice and stuff. Osorio has done a lot of great things. Unfortunately for Osorio, is the results when they mattered the most just weren't there, and that to me is the reason why I think that you thank them for serving. They learned a lot. I mean, we're going to use a lot of the stuff that you've shown us, moving forward. But the reality is that on the day when we needed you to be at your best, it didn't happen, and because of that, we're gonna move a different direction. So,
But they offered him a contract, though. They offered a contract extension, which I don't think
well,
he's
that's
gonna
the
take.
rumor. I don't think he's going to
Yeah,
take it. I think that's a saving face move by the federation. They're
for
like,
for
oh,
him.
yeah, because if he goes, then they'll say, well, we offered him a contract. He turned us down.
Yeah, supposedly he had a. I mean, the room. They've been reporting that he has a pre-agreement with U.S. Soccer, and he's got the option to leave if Colombia. But you know what? So he might not go to the U.S. because then there's also a rumor, or maybe has it been reported that Beckerman is moving to be the sporting director of the AFA?
That is the rumor. I mean, the rumor I heard was Beckerman to the sporting director, and then Osorio to Colombia,
Yeah,
and San Pauli to Mexico was the rumor that I heard.
but what I thought how's Sampoli gonna leave? I thought Beckerman wants him to stay.
Well, that was just the rumor.
But yeah, huh? That is so Sampoli's option too, huh?
Well, they'd have to buy out his contract
I
if
don't.
if that was the case.
I think they'll go with Almeida. I mean, he's shown he can win tournaments, but
Well, here's my thing about Almeida. He wants the job.
yeah, that's true.
That is half the battle. Mexico for as much as the national team makes, and I'm sure it pays well. It is not an easy job. I mean, as you pointed out, there's a lot of you have to deal with a lot in the press. Uh, you say something on Monday, and it's something that's talked about for 5 days.
Yeah,
It's I mean it is a but if somebody wants the gig, then I think that's somebody that you should pay. Piojo wanted the gig. Piojo thought it was like the culmination of his career, not just as a player but as a coach, as a professional. To hit in his mind, it was like the pinnacle of what he always. It was his goal. It was his life
yeah.
dream. And I mean, and you want guys like that. And if Almeida wants the gig, then I mean, he has a track. Now Joel, may not agree with us, but I mean, I personally think that my first choice would have been Diego Alonso, but he's not available, so he's off the table.
Monterrey will release him if I think they would. Or you think they'll put up a fight?
Well, they just signed him. I mean, he hasn't even coached the game for him yet.
Oh yeah, I. But I mean, how's the relationship between Federation and Monterrey? Because like that kind of happened with Spain, right? Julian Lopetegui was he was set to coach, and I think they fired him. What was it, like 3 days before the debut?
Right.
Because he got the Real Madrid job.
Yeah, I'm
So
not. I'm not sure why they had to fire him because of that. I mean, that was just seemed like
yeah,
kind of petty
pissing
BS.
contest, John. Pissing contest.
Yeah, it's just stupid. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate. Yeah, but so I mean, I personally think that I don't think it'll be Osorio, and if it is Almeida, then the way I see it is that if he has a successful 4 years, and to me, success to me isn't making it to the World Cup quarterfinals. Success to me is having a winning a Gold Cup. You don't have to win both; just win a Gold Cup, and do well in qualifying. Qualify with a couple of games to spare. You don't have to be first; just qualify. Don't you know don't make us suffer till the last game in Trinidad or something. Just something awful.
So
You
no
know,
Hitos or Chepo tenures.
we've all been there. Yeah, exactly. So qualify. They don't have to be comfortably, but just qualify. With 2 games to spare. Qualify in match day 8. I'd be
Yeah.
fine with that. And and then be good about the generational change. if you have, you know, the World Cup is always such a crowd because you don't know who you're going to play, with the draw and everything else and the Cruce and everything. So, just play well at the World Cup. And to me, if obviously if they make the quarterfinals, fantastic. If they don't, so be it. But if at the end of that World Cup, if you have a good taste in your mouth, then I think that you've earned the right to coach the team for the next World Cup, because there won't be qualifications. They'll just be playing. They'll be playing Gold Cup and friendlies because they don't have to worry about qualifying because they're a host nation. And
which you can get more easily fired because it'll maybe not. They'll leave them alone, huh?
right.
Even if the
So
media.
exactly. So your processo is going to be totally different. So you're going to be, you're not going to be playing as many competitive games, but you're going to have it's going to be a different way of Bora. This won't ever happen again, but Bora took the team for a year and played friendlies. Had the entire national team for a year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to happen. But I do think that the next coach, if they finish the World Cup with people having a good taste in their mouth, then I think that they will automatically get the opportunity to coach coach for the next one. And frankly, it's kind of what you want, because you have the generational overhaul that you have to go through, which is why this upcoming Olympics is going to be kind of important for Mexico, because it really is going to end up being the base, not just for this World Cup, but for the next one, for the next two World Cups. So you want to get that squared away. There's some talent there, and then like we said, if Mexico can have a solid World Cup in 2022, then the coach. Now, if they crash and burn and go 3-and-out and look terrible, then no, thank you very much. We're going to go a different way. But
Yeah.
if they, and again, to me, this World Cup is almost like a dress rehearsal for the 2026. I think the 2026 is the one where you put all the canicas, in the circle and go on. Let's see what we can do. And so the 2022 one, albeit important, is to me kind of like the way South Africa was, or the way that they wanted Vasco to treat South Africa. Hey, winning or losing is the most important thing. Let's go out there and see what these young kids can do. And
Yeah.
of course, he didn't play him. That's not true. He played.
You know
played
what?
quite a few.
I think he played them in the England friendly, and then he gave up on them after that game because he going in that England friendly. I mean, they earned a lot of praise. Even the zonal marking Michael Cox
Oh,
guy.
they dominated that game except for one thing, that no one could cover Peter Crouch.
Yeah.
But they dominated that game.
Yeah.
So that would be my plan. And whether it's on me, I do think that it's going to be somebody that understands that has some kind of background in Mexican soccer. I don't know if there's a Mexican coach right now who is I mean, there are plenty that are qualified, but I don't think any of them has done anything over the past couple of years to distinguish themselves enough to be considered a candidate.
Hey, John. The thing is too. Let's say Almeida gets it this 4 years. He doesn't impress. Now you have a World Cup with no qualifiers, and I mean, just speculating, right? You go 3-and-out, leaves a bad taste. You don't want to continue with the same manager. How old is Tuca after
Oh man,
2022?
Tuca is going to be in his 70s by that point, man. No. Osorio stole Tuca's World Cup by continuing to win.
he should have just fell on his sword, huh? Maybe
that's right. Yeah, that's exactly. He didn't lose until the last game of the Hex. Had he lost in any game, previous to the 8th one, then Tuca might have. It just was not in the stars for Tuca to coach in this, which is such a shame too. It would have been great. Tuca would not have played that way against Sweden. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I don't think Almeida would have either. I think tournaments, so I probably expect a good Gold Cup by Mexico, maybe even a in the World Cup they could, maybe exceed expectations.
Yeah.
And the qualifiers, I wonder if how he would approach them. I don't think he would he, because in the leagues he tries to dominate possession and break down the defense, which they're gonna have to do if they're gonna be playing these teams in Azteca. Uh,
I'll tell you, there are some players right now that would be thrilled if Almeida was named the coach, because if you look at the guys in Europe, outside of Tecatito and and Chucky, is anybody that's playing in Europe right now? Do they really have a shot of making a realistic shot at making the next World Cup team?
yeah. Well, you have the back line, John. That's the great
Salcedo,
part for Mexico.
well, Salcedo and Araujo, I guess.
Salcedo, Araujo, and then you still, Ache. I think he's what, 27,
No,
20.
he's 28. He'll be 32.
So he'd probably still be around. I think
So he would probably make the team, but probably as a backup.
No, I think he
You
would
would
still
hope,
start. Yeah, I think he was. I think he'd be the captain, John. Either him or Salcedo are your captains.
right? So
Those
Guardado would not be there. Layun won't be there. Chicharo is
and actually,
iffy.
I'll be happy Layun is gone. I think that guy, they really never found a way to make Layun fit into the team. I think.
Well, Layun needs to play in a línea de cinco, punto y aparte.
But I think even there he doesn't defend, John. I think he really needed. He just wasn't the player.
Well, then play him as a winger if he doesn't defend.
Yeah, and I think that's what Osorio tried to do, play him as a winger, but I think it's just he's a luxury player that Mexico can't afford because they don't have the
They don't have the guys to fill out his deficiencies.
exactly.
Right. Well, anyway, so Layun, Chicharo is iffy. Obviously, Giovanni and Vela, probably won't be there.
Good
So
riddance.
there is
Well,
a
Vela's
lot.
a loss. He's a. I mean, he had at one point he was the third best player in La Liga. What a waste.
Yeah, right. It was, and during the World Cup where, for whatever reason, he and FMF decided to, hey, I'm not going to play this one. So,
Okay,
yeah.
I'll take a mulligan. Seriously, dude.
Well, because I mean, the very first friendly after that he played, it was just weird. It was just weird. It was a weird situation.
Wait, who didn't play in that friendly? Was Salcido in that friendly
I don't remember.
when they played Spain in Azteca?
No, I'm talking about the one in. Oh yeah, he played that one for yeah. No, this is the one in 2014 when they played Holland. It was the first friendly,
but
and it was in Holland, and he played the first 10 minutes of the game. He scores a golazo.
Well, it doesn't seem. Yeah, that's right. He bossed in that game, man. He was a freaking beast.
Yeah, he scored a golazo in the first like 15 minutes. It's like, really, dude.
And he set up another one, man.
Yeah, it was.
Can you imagine? Gio at his peak, Vela. I mean, well, you posted it, right? Gio, Vela,
yeah.
Chief.
And Chicharo, 0 minutes together in 12 World Cup games. 0.
Unbelievable.
That's golden generation. Oh yeah, and to me the toughest part to take about that whole thing was when the U.S. Played Mexico at Giant Stadium. Mexico won 5-0, and the way that Vela and Giovanni played together.
Yes, that Gold Cup.
That second half where they were just. I mean, the stuff they were spinning was just this beautiful tapestry of just gorgeous soccer, where knowing where each other was and just laying off these perfect passes and their timing, and it was just like, oh my God, these aren't goals, these are works of art. I mean, they were just incredible. And and you're thinking, these guys are 19 years old and they're doing this now.
The sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean, it was. And to see, and then in 2014, 2018, it was missed opportunities, at least at the World Cup. They just missed opportunities for Mexico with those guys.
They didn't manage. I think they didn't, especially in Gio's case, he didn't manage his career well.
No, he did not.
Obviously Vela's a guy that he could probably he'd rather be on vacation.
Well, and again, they don't, like I said, these guys, they don't owe us anything. The decisions they make are not for the fans, are not for national team fans, are not. They're not thinking, well, how is this going to affect my standing on the national? It's not if that's I get that, that's fine. They don't know us anything, and but again, as a fan, it's just really frustrating to see what could have been, and to
Yeah.
have it not pan out the way that you would wanted to see it. It was just I mean, even in the first 10 minutes of the 2010 World Cup, where Mexico had two gigantic scoring chances but couldn't knock them in, it's like, wow, this is going to be, let's get this going, and it just never worked out. So and that's fine. And Mexico has they have a new generation of players, and there are some players that have just amazing opportunities in front of them to take over the national team. I'm talking about players like Pizarro and La Chofis and this Lainez kid, if he can get it going.
Oh man,
Jonathan Gonzalez.
He needs to get the hell out of there. Yeah, Jonathan Gonzalez.
Yeah, Salcedo, I think, like you said, is going to, Cesar Montes has some opportunities. That kid, the wingback for Santos, whose name is eluding me right now, who was just a really great player. There's opportunities for him. There's the forward, the forward position is wide open right now.
Chivas has a really interesting prospect. I think out of other players, his name is Godinez. I mean, that kid is just freaking. He's just big, man. If he adds some muscle to his frame, cause he's a big kid. He's got these white shoulders. Dude, he's a freaking monster to me. If great thing that Cardoso's there working with these guys on the finishing.
Right. Well, that's right. That's right. He posted more videos, Cardoso, of finishing school.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're scoring, dude. Trophies scored had a goal, and then Polido had they did a closed door friendly against Atlas. Well, I guess we covered that last time. But, I mean, it's promising. So we'll see. Hopefully these guys finish their chances, and hopefully this Godinez kid actually pans out. I think, to me, that's the one of the best striker prospects for Mexico is that kid.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I think will be different between this cycle and then the next one by the time the World Cup rolls around is, this was the team that Mexico had the most Europeans. I think it's going to be the opposite. I think that in the next one there'll be more Liga MX players.
Is it to Mexico's benefit to have the strongest league possible, even if that means?
What is to Mexico's benefit is that after they have to be able to create and build and polish off a player or enough players to where they are playing in the top leagues. They're doing both in playing in the top leagues in Europe and playing in Liga MX.
Yeah,
I mean that's just the reality where they're almost interchangeable. Liga MX needs to, for that to happen, the level of play of Liga MX needs to increase. It's unfortunate that the Liga MX isn't a more attractive league, or Mexico isn't as an attractive place to live as other parts of the world, because I think if it was, then I think Liga MX would be a thriving. And again, I'm not disrespecting Mexico in any way. It's just it would be it would be a much more interesting league.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. Definitely, their image and their the the social the little civil war they got going on is not
right.
Not helping. But I mean, it has a potential. The money, the resources are there.
Absolutely, and it always has. It always has. I mean, it's which is why again the next best thing for Mexico fans is like you said, to play the South American clubs, whether it's a Libertadores or just play them, it doesn't matter what tournament you play them in, just as long as you're playing them.
You know what, John? I wonder how, how do these guys, how do they feel? Gallito, Gio, Rafa, they played Croatia 4 years ago. They knocked them out of the group. They kept them from advancing uh into knockouts, and then to turn around 4 years later and to see those guys make the final.
Yeah, but I mean, I mean, it is. It's a different. I mean, it's just a different team, Croatia. I mean,
No, but
they're
well, it's mostly the. I mean, I got to go back, but it's a
well,
lot of
it's
the same players,
yeah. There's 8 players that were on that squad, or maybe even if they have played the game. But
I know Rakitic, Modric,
oh,
Mandzukic can
yeah,
strike.
exactly. Perisic was on that team. The guy who played for Real Madrid. I mean, they're stacked. It's just I don't necessarily think there's any kind of causal relationship. A lot of people say, well, it's you know, it just it was just a different set of circumstances. I mean, Mexico, played lights out that day.
I think too. I try. I mean, personnel. Osorio didn't take a true defensive mid.
No,
And
he
I
did
think,
not.
like, for example, against Brazil, he could have used one. I think against Sweden, he himself admitted, hey, I needed a defensive mid for that game because I should have played with a line of three and a true defensive mid covering the defense, the space in front. And so I think Osorio kind of, I think those picking those 23 players is obviously not an easy task, and I think he cornered himself by his player pool because
He did. It was, and again, another one of his major flaws because he had an unbalanced team.
and look, Eric Gutierrez didn't play a single minute. Uh, Aquino didn't play a single minute. And the two goalies. So I mean, he could have easily gave in. He took, like, so all these attacking players that didn't really play much either. Tecatito,
And
Gio,
then he ended up opposing himself because he lost Moreno to suspension,
yeah,
and he was. I mean, his hands were tied. I mean, he had to play the way he had to play.
yeah. Eh, but I think yeah, man, and the other side of it is from that game, Croatia, where their players, Modric, I think he, another 4 years in Real Madrid or whatever, so,
Yeah,
like,
it
just
helps.
the trajectory of careers totally changed. Gio went from Villarreal to freaking MLS, Galaxy.
Right.
It's just,
Well, I mean, Gio just looks like he's checked out. I mean, he just
yeah, man, he's done, dude.
yeah yeah, and again, that's fine. I mean, I'm not
Not
what are you
judging.
gonna do? Exactly. It's like you're 29. He's been a professional for 12 years. I get it.
Gotta get paid.
I mean, I understand. It's
You know, you
I
know
hold.
after
It's nothing personal.
after the World Cup, I had heard the 2014. I heard a rumor that or actually, oh no, it was after the Copa America Centenario that Cheech had offer, like, a really, like, a $30 million offer. It's something outrageous to go to China. He had a really big offer that's gonna take care of him once his career is over, and he turned it down. Um, I guess this guy, he
Yeah.
just,
Well,
his
Cheech
priority was
has
something
something.
else.
He has something to prove coming into this season. I mean, this is he's another one who's he's 30 years old now,
Yeah,
and this he's got 1 or 2 years in Europe left, and I think he'll end up going back to Mexico before he goes to MLS, which is what I told Joel earlier.
you think he'll come back to Chivas?
I think he'll end up at Pumas. No, actually, yeah, he probably will go back to. I don't think he'll play anywhere else.
Yeah, but who knows, dude? Because they owe him money, right? They remember when he transferred. When the player gets transferred, they're supposed to get, like, a
10%.
percentage of. and they never gave him his part. I think they kind of stiffed him on
What
that.
a shock!
Yeah, right. Um,
Oh man, that reminded me. I didn't get to load it up, but I wanted to load up a new drop when we make some just incredibly ridiculous, uh, obvious statement about Liga MX. It was the from probably the greatest movie of all time.
Everybody is to leave here immediately. This cafe is closed until further notice. Clear the room at once.
Here it is.
Well, I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
You're winning, sir.
Oh, thank you very much.
There you go. So yeah, that's
where is that from, dude? I don't know.
Casablanca.
Oh, right. All right. I think I saw it one time growing up in elementary or middle school. I think they put
You
they
owe
play the
you
movie.
honestly, you owe it to yourself to watch it again. It is.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
It'll blow you away. You're like this is such a great movie. It'll just blow you away. So one last thing, Profe, before we wrap it up, I know that you're a big basketball. Somehow your basketball fanness has reemerged with the signing of LeBron James and with the Lakers. So
I've been a fan, just the enthusiasm, a little bit more enthusiasm.
Sure. Well, I mean the Lakers have been terrible for 4 or 5 years now. So, and
Yeah.
and to me, the Lakers are the team. I mean, for as long as I've been alive, or at least following basketball, the Lakers were always just. I mean, we're always in the fight for not just making the playoffs, but for being in the finals. So for them to be as bad as long as they have, I mean, it's almost unprecedented, and this makes them instantly. Especially they get a couple of which I'm sure they will, make them title contenders.
Yes. John. Well, what they did is the owner, Jeannie Buss. So her and her, Jerry Buss was the owner. He passed away. He left the team to his kids. I think he has a few sons and a daughter. And then the daughter finally, her brother and Mitch Kupchak, an old player. You probably remember him.
Oh, I remember Mitch Kupchak. Sure.
Yeah, Mitch Kupchak was a GM, and then Jim Buss was the general, was the president, I think, of operations. And so Jeannie was kind of in the background, and they ran the team for a few years. They didn't like any of their moves, so she canned them last year. And then she brought in Magic Johnson, and then as a president of basketball operations, and she hired Kobe Bryant's agent, his agent Rob Pelinka. So he had to get rid of all his clients. He had to spin them off, and he became the general manager. And so they've been running the team for a little bit over a year. And dude, they most of the players that were on the roster last year, they're gone.
Right.
I think they only have like two or three players left. One is one of their high draft picks, Brandon Ingram, that he has a very very bright future, man. Uh, and I think the other guy left is Jesus. I can't remember. I think that might be. And then one of the contracts, one of the bad deals, on a really big contract.
Fascinating to me that not only are you a Lake, but you're pretending. You're not pretending. I mean, you are a straight up huge Laker fan. It's cracking me up.
Yeah, I mean, John. I mean, there's a quote from the old league president, the NBA. What's his name? David Stern. I think he's
Right.
retired. He said that the league's dream matchup was the Lakers versus the Lakers in the finals because of the ratings, and there's a lot of conspiracies of certain playoff games or matchups that ended up with the Lakers advancing. A bunch of noise.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, that's why. Remember, I told you, hey, Mexico's not Mexico's like the Dallas Mavericks or it's a small market team.
Mexico are the Indiana Pacers of the
Yeah, they're not gonna get the calls, that the Lakers, the
right.
Brazils that they get, so but yeah. Big fan, John. So I know, congratulations, man. You're gonna be covering the Oklahoma Thunder, right? You're gonna be producing
Yeah, I'll be producing the pre and post for Thunder Live
it,
up in which means that I'll be probably in the fall, at least fall through the winter. I'll probably, if the days coincide, obviously I won't be able to do the CantinaMX podcast, which we'll,
so
we'll address when the time comes.
so you run but when you produce, you run like because I have no idea what I mean. I kind of have an idea, I think.
Well, here's when you produce a show, what you're doing is you format the show. So you have, I mean, basically you're in charge of everything that is on the screen, and you have your announcers, then you have your tape guy, and you have your graphics guy, and your audio guy, and you have to make sure that we're all in concert for what it is that we want to do for this particular segment. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to start it off with our open graphic, and then from that we're going to go to our talent, and they're going to speak for however many seconds about this particular topic, and then we're going to throw it to a video of these highlights that I have selected. I want to show highlights of LeBron, or uh, I guess Westbrook, since we're talking Thunder.
Yeah,
And
Westbrook,
yeah,
Paul George.
and then after that we're gonna show a graphic, and then we're gonna show a react from him. Uh, we're gonna show a react from him after the game. Then our announcers are gonna talk about it, and then while they're talking about it, we're gonna show some highlights again, and I'm gonna put his stats up at the same time, and we're going to and then we just put that all together, and then so as a producer, you constantly have to be in communication with everybody to make sure that everybody's on the same page, to make sure that we know exactly which way we're going in the direction that we're going. So it is challenging. I'm looking forward to the challenge. It's going to be
So,
it's going to be
so question for you, John. Do you prefer to? Well, I'm just curious. You know how it's when they show the score, do you like to hide the score and then like show it like briefly for a few seconds, or do you prefer to have the little banner at the bottom or in a little corner, the whole time?
You mean like during a live broadcast?
Yeah, during a live
Oh, I
broadcast.
want to have the
Is
score on
that
all
part
the
of it?
time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
You
When I
like?
produce live events, yeah, absolutely. I want to have it up. I want to have it up the whole time.
Oh, okay.
But I will say I do like taking it out during a replay, and then
Yeah.
when you fly out of the and so yeah, when I see it over the replay, that kind of bugs me.
Cause you know what, like, yeah, Telemundo, it would bug me because Telemundo on their soccer broadcast, they won't show the score, or
Well,
they used not to,
yeah, they used to not show the score. Yeah, it used to suck.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that they're owned by NBC, they show the score all the time.
Oh,
I got to
nice.
say, as far as the coverage from Telemundo has been really good. I've really enjoyed it and
Oh,
listen
no,
to it.
it was
And I will admit that I didn't watch it as much on Fox, but because I do like watching the World Cups in Spanish. It's just how I like how I prefer to have my World Cup. But what I did, I know that like some of the guys that I work with, like Mark Followell, I thought did a great job. I'm trying to make sure to watch his games because he's someone that I've worked with in the past. Same with Glenn Davis, and I do think that the on Fox
well.
the games as the games got bigger, the announcers I think certainly lived up to it as well. So I think both Fox and Telemundo have finished very strong in the World Cup, so they should both be
But
commended for their work.
Fox was HD by default, though, man. That I give them the edge, but you're right. I like listening to the Telemundo in Spanish with their
For me, it's a comfort thing. I mean,
yeah.
like I was saying a few weeks ago on the show when after the Mexico game, I was with my sister, and we just sat in the pool. We didn't have to watch the Germany-Sweden game, but we knew exactly what was going on by the intonation, and it's the same in English too. I'm not saying this is exclusive to Spanish, but she and I are so used to hearing Spanish that certain way that we know we and then so that we know to like we're having a conversation and all of a sudden we hear the announcer going to speak really fast and quickly. So we would stop. We would instinctively stop and listen, and then nothing would happen, and we go okay, and then we would continue to talk. you know, so and I'm sure it's the same. For most of us, and but I I like I said I think on Fox as the games got bigger, I thought that they did a really good job, and I did enjoy because I watched the Mexico Brazil game on Fox, and I thought that I really like John. Is it John Strong? He's really good. The main announcer for Fox. I like him a lot. I think he does a really good job. He's excitable. He obviously is very passionate about the game. Uh, he he does real well, and I like Stu Holden too.
Oh yeah, this is the center mid, U.S. Soccer center mid.
Yeah, I think he does a good job.
Is he the guy that got the head injury?
He did have that, but he also remember he had just a really brutal broken leg when he was in the Premier League. It was just heartbreakingly brutal, and I don't think he was able to come back from that fully. And
Oh, because there's one guy that retired because of concussions, but maybe it's the
that
other
was
guy.
Taylor Twellman.
Oh, right. Or Phil
Yeah,
Hyber? Isn't that him?
but Stu, I believe, also did have some. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he did have some I mean, how could you not? I mean, you play soccer, you're gonna have concussions.
Yeah.
I mean, especially at the professional level. So, and a lot of times
No, especially in
unreported.
Premier League. Even Cheech
Yeah,
got one.
yeah. So it's and a lot of times it goes unreported because they just for the longest time they didn't check for that kind of stuff. And that now
Yeah.
they're a little bit. I mean, I'm sure that you guys uh, now are y'all allowed to head the ball
No, but there's an
until
age
what age?
minimum.
Until what
Uh,
age?
under 11, you can't hit the ball, and anytime there's a head injury, uh,
Game over.
yeah, the kid pretty much if it's a head injury,
Game over for the kid.
yeah, it's game over for the kid. He can't come in if and especially not if they got dizzy or something.
Sure.
And then there's a protocol you gotta like let the parents know so that they follow up on it. Um, but
So 12 and up, you can start using your head.
yeah, you can start hitting 12 and up. But I think they're kind of missing they're putting because so let's say the ball's bouncing, and the striker takes the ball and he kind of just controls it with his head, and then like they're not allowing even that, which I think is a little silly. It's one thing if they cross it and then I go in for a header and I
Right.
fit.
They should change the rule to they can't pass it with the head.
No,
Pass or
I just
shoot the header.
yeah, I think they shouldn't be. Like if they're crossing it or left, it's a 50-50 ball that like the goalie punts it and then you hit it. I
Right.
think you shouldn't, and or if they cross it, probably you don't want them hitting like in a corner or anything like that, or a set piece. But I think if the ball already bounced, and the impact's not there is no impact practically. You should be able to try to control the ball with your head, which I think is part of skill development. But they're just carte blank. No, you cannot touch it with your head. You know,
Right.
a little silly, I think, but
Well, Profe, it's kind of like we had the Joel show, and then we had the Profe show. So
Saving
it
the best for last, obviously.
no, I think it worked out very well. I wish we could have had not that I didn't enjoy y'all's company, but it's always nice to have a full panel. I guess we'll have that in the coming weeks as a lot of folks are on vacation and stuff. So, last question, Prof. Before we wrap it up, France, Croatia. Uh, you don't have to necessarily give me a full tactical breakdown, but how do you see the game playing out and who wins?
You know what, John? I'm gonna tell you, my gut tells me that France wins it. That's I think their counterattack with Mbappe, and they have a pretty decent defense. Uh, and I think Croatia's they've got a dog in them. So I won't give you a tactical breakdown, but I'll give you my point of view. I'm rooting for. I mean, in my heart, I want Croatia to win. That would be a great story.
and it's a great Cinderella story for those guys.
Right.
Um, and they've got fantastic players. They've got I think most of their goal production hasn't necessarily come from their strikers. So they've got some weapons there. But France is a stacked team, but they're playing extremely defensive. So uh, I think if you're the from the school where you want offense, you want the offense to win. You want the skilled players to showcase themselves. You're gonna root for Croatia because they're going out there. They're attacking the opponent for the most part a lot more than they're defending. Uh, and they're taking the ball to the opponent. And then France is more they're shutting down spaces. They're sitting back, and they got this great attacking talent. Griezmann, Mbappe, uh, man. Hey, what are they? What? There's a tweet I saw. Crack Mbappe, crack Griezmann, crack. And he said, "Es todo lo que hay, rude." you know, their
Right.
center forward. But so if Croatia goes up by a goal, I'm hoping that happens, and so it'll be a more open game. But I'm sure you have the same philosophy. Defense wins championships. So
Yeah. I mean, I do think that which really surprised me about the Brazil Belgium game, but the Belgians, I think got really lucky. I mean, really
oh
lucky. And again, that's not taking anything away from their performance because they played outstanding. But I mean, every freaking ball bounced their way in that game. I mean, it was. I mean,
yeah,
someone
I
who was
mean
watching that couldn't say, "Wow, they're really just." I mean, luck is on
if
their side tonight.
that corner. I mean, Belgium, they were attacking well, so they were earning corners from their attacking play, but it was a little fortuitous because who was it? Gabriel Jesus and I think it was Fernandinho got in each other's way,
Right.
you know.
And
But
he just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and it hit him.
yeah, and and but I mean that shows you how dominant Brazil was. They had two Brazilians get to that ball before a Belgian even, you know.
Right. Just really unfortunate. And Belgium, they scored a great. The goal they scored was a terrific goal, and they probably could have had a few more had that, but they just their plays were breaking down. But Brazil in that game, I mean, there was, I mean, they just were having such that they just could not score. I mean, hitting off the post and
You know what, John? Too, I think to me the biggest mistake is playing Marcelo. I think I mean he's a great
it
player.
played right into into
Into
Belgium's strength.
exactly. I mean, Leon Dragusto, he would not have gone as much forward. He would not have left a lot of space in the back. I mean, Marcelo spent most of his time inside
Yeah, I mean
Belgium's
he's
half.
like a fifth midfielder. It's just
Yeah,
it's
and so and that would confuse Miranda because of Lukaku's movement. Lukaku was kind of hanging towards the right side of the field, and Lukaku was. I mean, Miranda didn't know what to do. Whether to when
right.
he if you try to shut him down, he opens up a big space, and guess who's running through it? Feilani, you
Or
know
De Bruyne
or somebody. But a
Hazard,
lot of
right?
times, and that was like when we turned around and saw Belgium against France. I think there Martinez, his mistake was. To me, I thought that it was working having Feilani crash the box as a second striker and sending in crosses to him. Um, I thought it was working, man. I thought it was they were getting corners, they were winning the headers, they just weren't finishing them, and it just seemed like he thought like he gave up on that and he tried to go back to I don't know. I think he decided to make his subs and see if something would stick.
Yeah, and I
Um,
mean, and then France got him on a set piece. I mean, it's just. But
yeah,
both
yeah,
goalies played
yeah,
really well in
exactly.
that game.
You die by the sword. You live by the sword. You die by the sword, right?
So you say France wins, but you hope Croatia in your heart.
Yeah, in
But
my
but
heart, I
but your
want
head
Croatia.
says France.
Can you imagine, John? I mean, I know we've talked about this where if the Yugoslavian Republic, if they had, if they hadn't split up, obviously there's whatever it was, politics, but
I mean, when Croatia is not on top, the Czech Republic is on top.
Yeah, I mean, people, and I'm glad you brought that up, but we talked about this earlier, but people seem to forget that, in previous World Cups, there have been Eastern European, Hungary's played in two finals, and the Czech Republic, when they were Czechoslovakia, played in two finals as well. So, Eastern European soccer is not, it's stronger than people realize. And,
Yeah.
and Croatia, again, is another example. Again, just reading the list of the teams where these guys play is, I kind of along the lines with you. I think that, I think that France is just too much for Croatia here, and I do think that fatigue will be a factor, especially covering Griezmann's fast as lightning, and so's
Mbappe.
and Mbappe's twice as fast as Griezmann, and
You,
it's he is, and it's not like he's a tronco either. I mean, the dude has great ball skills.
oh, Giroud.
No, Mbappe.
Mbappe. No,
No,
he's
no,
a.
no. Giroud is a terrible tronco. I mean, that's.
But you know what, John? It freaking works, man. It works for that team. It works.
And that's fine. That's fine. I'm sure we were talking about this earlier. I'm sure Gignac is watching that game going, really, dude?
He's like, yeah,
really?
I know. I think Gignac would fit in better, but he's in Mexico. They probably don't think highly of the league.
Well, he did play the Euro after playing in Tigres, and he came within a few centimeters of winning the Eurocopa for France. Gignac did, and that was only 2 years ago. So.
No, but
I do think that Giroud, obviously, I know he's a very talented player, but he did that some pretty bad opportunities taken in the game against.
Well, he came out. Didn't he come out injured? He had a little calf. I think he kind of.
He did come out injured, right? So they have another guy in there who again proceeded to miss almost as bad as.
Can you believe
which made you realize why Giroud was starting in the first place?
Can you believe these guys, Benzema's, they take the luxury of not calling him up?
It's nuts. I see that's where Mexico needs to be. When they have a player of the quality of a Benzema, they're like, you know what? Thanks, but no thanks, Benzema. We'll pass. It's a hard pass on it. Mexico's nowhere near that. I think that what this is showing again is that 1 through 11, Mexico can hang with anybody in the world. But when you have to bring in players 12, 13, 14, 15, we start to see problems.
So what you're doing is you're defending Manuel Mejia Barón for not making any subs. That's what you're doing. You realize that?
That's just mean and vicious. Mean and vicious. Well, I'm just saying, just in general, it's no. What I meant to say was when you have to start players 12, 13, and 14 is when you start to have problems.
Yeah.
But Mexico just doesn't have. They don't have depth. They don't have depth. Mexico just doesn't.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Osorio tried to.
He thought he did. He did.
But he did. But it just the depth was 4 years ago.
Yeah. No kidding.
But yeah, man.
All right.
You know what,
so,
John? Here's a tactical tidbit. I think if Croatia finds a way to deal with France's counterattack, I think they can take it, because I know they're going to be proposing. I'm sure they're going to have most of the possession because that's how France is going to want it.
Right.
So if they can find a way to stop the transitions between Mbappe, Griezmann, and freaking Pogba, and Blaise Matuidi, man, what a beast team, John.
It's impressive, and I mean, and Varane is he's a great. I saw today he's only like 24 or 25. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Umtiti's also pretty young, and they're both, one's at Madrid, the other one's at Barca.
Yeah, I mean, it is a great team, and I do think that Croatia is that they're gonna be a little dead-legged, and I think of in the NCAA basketball, when they have basketball, they have the conference tournaments, and they have the team that that has to play Like they didn't make it enough to get a first round bye, so but the first round, and then they played the quarterfinals and the semis and the final. And the teams usually make it all that far. By the time they get to the final, they might be able to hang with you for, up until like 10 minutes left in the second half, but then they fade because they're just exhausted because they had to play one extra game. And that's where I think France has a big edge. Oh, and again, and mainly because they have guys that are really fast and really good on the ball, and if they get any amount of space, then I think Croatia could be in trouble. So I do think, like I said, I think if it's over 90, France wins. If it goes into extra time, then I think Croatia has a legitimate chance to win. And if it goes to penalties, then yeah, I've actually liked penalty. Usually I hate penalties. I think the penalties just suck. I had games that are decided by penalties, but I've actually really enjoyed watching the penalty kicks this year. I've gotten into the drama of the penalty kick.
Yeah, they've been pretty. I mean, I thought Russia would
Oh, I was telling my wife, I was like, man, I don't give, I don't have, not even a cat in this fight. I'm like as unbiased as it gets watching the Croatia-Russia match. And I was nervous as hell. I was just like, just on the edge of my seat. I was just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I felt, I did, but it was definitely, it was a great game. It was nervy. It was fun. Of all the quarterfinal games, I said, man, this game is going to be the way, end up being the best one. Funny how that works out.
Yeah, man.
But anyway. All right, Profe. Well, it's we've been on for a while, so it's probably a good time for us to wrap it up. But I'm glad you were able to come on, Profe. It was good with and you have and when you talk to Jan, you give him all those proposals. I think that's definitely some steps in the right direction. So hopefully he will. When Juan Carlos Osorio does his exit interview, and he goes, and Don Jon, si quiere un pedazo de consejo, le voy a decir que suscriba al CantinaMX podcast en YouTube y también en el iTunes para que pueda aprender de él. So, hopefully he will, like Juan Carlos Osorio did, will download the podcast and heed our advice.
Oh, definitely, dude. I think that was the missing link this time, man.
Well, yeah, it's we'll see how that plays out. But it was I'm glad to have you on, Profe. It was always fun to chat with you. And thanks to Joel Aceves that joined us earlier. I was hoping that we would have some other folks join us this evening, but they were unable to make it, and that's quite all right. We will hopefully have them on next week. But for Joel Aceves and for Juan Uribe, my name is John Jagu. Thank you all for listening here on the CantinaMX podcast. We do appreciate it. And of course, you can listen to this and our previous editions. You can download them right here on our YouTube page, or you could also download them from iTunes as well as Google Play. We do thank you all for your patronage, and we will talk to you guys again very soon. Thank you.